The Iron Throne of Ice and Fire. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51, The Upright and Loyal Knight. The Red Keep, the Maiden's Hall. Grimm followed Jaime to the hall and spotted Princess Myrcella. Surrounded by maids and nuns, Princess Myrcella looked in Grimm's direction. Princess Myrcella's delicate face showed the joy of a little girl, and her small body was about to move. At this time, an older nun coughed lightly. Hearing the nun's movement, Myrcella straightened her waist again and immediately restrained the expression on her face. Myrcella, with a proud face, raised her little chin. Myrcella Baratheon is the second child of Queen Cersei. She has milky white skin and golden curly hair. This is the first time that Grimm has come into close contact with Princess Myrcella, who looks like a young version of Cersei. At lunch at Meagher's Tower, Myrcella was also present. At that time, Grimm just glanced at the freckles on Myrcella's little face and looked away. Before Grimm and the others greeted her, Myrcella opened her mouth, imitating Queen Cersei's chin, and spoke in a childish voice. "Excuse me, Grimm." The nun behind Myrcella coughed again, and Myrcella immediately stopped her childish voice, blushed, and subconsciously lowered her head. The sharp-minded Grimm felt that he had found a way to get out as soon as possible. King Grimm, who took over the royal hunt, was very busy and had no time to play with Cersei's boss's children. Grimm touched his chest and saluted. "Greetings, Her Royal Highness." Princess Myrcella returned the greeting. "Baron Grimm, I hope I didn't disturb you by my sudden invitation." Grimm smiled and said, "It is my honor to be summoned by Her Royal Highness." Hearing Grimm's answer, Myrcella's little face was full of happy smiles. Seeing this, Myrcella's nun hesitated and said nothing. Myrcella's smile was like the ripples of a clear spring, overflowing from the corners of her lips and spreading to her little face. Myrcella's clean and pure smile seemed to drive away all the haze in Green's heart. At this moment, Green understood James a little bit, and he also had more patience to treat his boss's children. Myrcella's pair of green eyes sparkled and asked, "I heard the story of mermaids. They said that Mermaid Harbor is your territory. Have you seen mermaids?" This question almost stumped Green, who was good at speaking. Green squatted down and looked at Myrcella straight, with a smile in his brown eyes. "Does your highness want to see a mermaid?" Because they had to talk, Green and Myrcella were only a few steps apart. Myrcella found that after Green lowered his body, because he didn't have to keep his little face up, her little neck suddenly felt a lot more relaxed. Green was a person who paid attention to details, and Myrcella's favorability towards Green increased by 1. The expression on Myrcella's face was tangled for a while, and finally she shook her head. "Forget it, mermaids are very shy, so don't disturb her." Green nodded slightly. "Although we have never seen them, we will all wish the kind and beautiful mermaids to live happily forever, right?" Myrcella nodded. "I will bless them." "Thank you, Baron Green." Green couldn't help but admire the little girl's precocity. Myrcella looked through the window of the flower hall and looked into the distance, as if muttering to herself, "I envy their freedom in the sea." The nun with a headscarf coughed again. Green felt that he could leave. Green, who had always had a gentle look, suddenly became cold. Green stood up and grasped the hilt of the sword with his right hand. Green stared at the hooded nun with a cold gaze, and his figure was in the posture of drawing a sword. "Little nun, you dare to offend Her Royal Highness the Princess many times in front of me." The scene changed too quickly, and everyone in the flower hall was still in the dark. James, who was about to step forward to stop her, felt that what Green said made sense. The nun who repeatedly reminded Myrcella of her behavior with coughs in the flower hall was called Yagris, who is mainly responsible for teaching Myrcella etiquette. Normally, it can be said that she is fulfilling her teaching duties, but now there is an outsider present, and Sister Yagris's behavior is indeed an offense to the majesty of the princess. Facing Green's fierce momentum, Sister Yagris subconsciously took a step back. What do you want to do?" Green's eyes had a faint murderous look, and he was ready to draw his sword. James, who Green had been waiting for, appeared beside Green at the right time. James's big hand pressed down Green's hand holding the hilt of the sword, and said in a deep voice, "Baron Green, you cannot draw your sword in front of the princess." James felt that he was right to call Green a little savage because he was always drawing his sword. The maids in the flower hall were a beat slower and then cried out in surprise. Myrcella frowned and ordered the maids to be quiet, and the flower hall finally returned to peace. Myrcella's clear blue eyes swept around her maids, with a warning in her eyes. The maids subconsciously slowed down their breathing. Myrcella stepped forward and said to Green, "Baron Green, thank you for your protection, but I believe Sister Ygritte has no ill intentions. Myrcella's words and deeds as a princess are impeccable." Green restrained his murderous aura. "If you dare to do it again, I will hang your head on the city gate," Sister Ygritte said in shock. You, I am a nun of the seven gods. You are blaspheming the seven gods." The murderous aura that Green had restrained appeared again. "I hope you can try and bet whether I dare." Sister Ygritte clearly felt that the young baron opposite was definitely not just talking, and said with trembling teeth, Enough, Sister Ygritte." The childish voice of Myrcella interrupted Sister Ygritte, who was about to speak. Sister Ygritte looked at Princess Myrcella, quickly lowered her head, stepped back a few steps, and stood with the maids. "Lord Green, I believe there won't be a next time." Green glanced at Jaime beside him, took his hand off the hilt of the sword, and said respectfully, "Your Highness, please forgive me for being rash and disturbing your interest." Myrcella shook her little face. "Lord Green, you are an upright and loyal knight." After Myrcella's voice fell, Jaime's face darkened again. Crab Claw Peninsula, Mermaid Port. The sun shines on the calm sea, and the breeze blows, sparkling. The Black Bess warship slowly docked at the pier of Mermaid Port. The Lord Admiral Stannis Baratheon stood on the deck of the bow of the Black Bess with a tense face, staring at the Mermaid Port, which already had a hint of prosperity. Duke Stannis Baratheon was tall and broad-shouldered. His skin was exposed to the sun for a long time, as if it was as hard as iron. Lord Stannis Baratheon, who is only 33 years old this year, has only a row of fine black hair on his head. And his beard is trimmed short and neat, covering his square chin and cheeks. Chapter 52. Every place is different. Mermaid Harbor, East Pier. Duke Stannis, escorted by soldiers, led Davos Seaworth, known as the Onion Knight, off the ship. Duke Stannis walked around the pier for a while, and without riding a horse, he walked to the inner city of Mermaid Harbor. Stannis, who had been silent all the way, stopped and looked around with sharp eyes. "Davos, tell me, what did you see?" Davos, as Stannis called him, had an ordinary appearance and a thin body. Under his short brown hair were a pair of brown eyes and a thick gray beard on his face. Knight Davos Seaworth, known as the Onion Knight, served as the commander of the narrow sea fleet of Duke Stannis, the Lord High Admiral. Davos, who was deeply trusted by Stannis, also served as an advisor. Davos was once a sea smuggler. During the War of the Usurper, Davos drove a small boat full of onions and pickled fish to break through the blockade of the Redwyne fleet and deliver supplies to Stannis, who was defending Storm's End. Thanks to the food, Storm's End was able to hold out until reinforcements arrived. For this great achievement, Stannis knighted Davos and gave him fertile land in Cape Wrath. After knighting Davos, Stannis said, "Good deeds cannot offset evil deeds, and evil deeds cannot cover up good deeds. Each behavior has its own retribution and punishment." As a punishment for Davos' previous smuggling crimes, the ruthless Stannis cut off the first knuckles of Davos's left hand except the thumb. Davos put the cut knuckles into a leather bag and hung them around his neck, considering them a lucky charm that could protect his family. Afterwards, Davos chose the surname Seaworth as his new family name. Knight Davos also looked around following Duke Stannis' gaze, and said respectfully, "Duke Stannis, what I have seen along the way is order." Duke Stannis, with a tense face, nodded slightly imperceptibly. "Go on," Davos began. "At first I only saw that the residents here were very well behaved, but after following you all the way, I now feel that they are all abiding by the detailed orders." Duke Stannis nodded a little bigger. "Davos, is there anything else?" Davos blinked, hesitated for a moment, and said in an uncertain tone, "Is it cleaner here?" A light flashed in Duke Stannis' sharp eyes. "Davos, this is not an order. The people are selflessly abiding by strict laws. This is what the kingdom should look like." While Stannis was speaking again, several people led by Butler Herschel were walking quickly towards Stannis and his group. Steward Herschel, who was a little out of breath, first calmed down his breath, then stood in front of Duke Stannis and bowed. "Your Excellency the Duke, I am Herschel, the steward of Whispering City and the governor of Mermaid Harbor. I salute you on behalf of the Crab family." When Duke Stannis inspected, he never liked to be informed of things in advance. His eyes wanted the most real facts. Herschel, who was supervising the progress of the Phase II of Mermaid Harbor, rushed over after hearing the news that Duke Stannis had come to Mermaid Harbor. Duke Stannis frowned, Where's your lord? Duke Stannis also heard recently that there was a new port called Mermaid Harbor in the north of the Strait of Dragonstone. 2 days ago, another cunning pirate broke through the royal fleet's vigilance and slipped into Blackwater Bay, and also attacked and damaged 2 merchant ships. After hearing the news, Duke Stannis was very angry. The furious Duke Stannis left Dragonstone in the name of inspecting the fleet. During the inspection, he executed several captains of the royal fleet who were responsible for the security of the relevant areas on the sea. On the way back after the inspection, Duke Stannis, the Minister of the Navy, remembered the new port called Mermaid Harbor. The fleet is closely related to the port. Every Minister of the Navy will pay attention to every port, and the port of Blackwater Bay, which is the barrier of King's Landing, will pay more attention to it. It happened that the black bess carrying Duke Stannis was not far from Mermaid Harbor. Under the order of Duke Stannis, the sailing direction of the black bess was changed to Mermaid Harbor. The question under the sharp eyes of Duke Stannis made Steward Herschel's heart beat heavily, and he almost forgot to breathe. Steward Herschel didn't care about the sweat on his forehead. Our Lord, Baron Green Crab, was appointed as an official by Her Majesty the Queen and is now in the Red Castle. Stannis's brows were knitted tighter. It was Lannister again. Is Lannister so attractive? What Lannister can give him, Stannis can also give him. Why have all the talents he likes already joined Lannister? Davos approached Duke Stannis and whispered, Duke Stannis, the nobles of the Crab Claw Peninsula have been suppressed by the nobles of the Vale of Prime Minister Jon for more than 10 years. I heard that this young baron named Green is very talented in military affairs. He defeated the coalition of 20,000 mountain wildlings with a few hundred people and recovered a large area of fertile land lost more than 10 years ago. Even I can see that Baron Green has an enterprising heart. I think he joined the Queen out of necessity. He wanted to use the Queen to fight against the nobles of the Vale. Duke Stannis looked at Davos and said, I remember that Robert had tried and punished the nobles of the Crab Claw Peninsula after the war. What happened to Prime Minister Jon and the nobles of the Vale later? Davos shook his head. He really didn't know. Those nobles did not have the great and upright qualities like Duke Stannis. Perhaps only the White Walkers knew what those people were planning every day. Davos is the most loyal supporter of Duke Stannis. Duke Stannis waved his hand to let Steward Herschel go away, walked towards the direction of the duck, and said to Davos, the kingdom cannot be governed by dark power. Prime Minister Jon is putting the cart before the horse. Do you also think that I should continue to assist him and then reach a political alliance? Davos organized his words before replying, maybe Prime Minister Jon has a last resort. Duke Stannis snorted coldly, I hope so. On the way, Davos saw a group of children around 10 years old in the distance, led by an energetic old man, standing in a small square formation that looked very neat. Because of the distance, Davos could only see the old man holding a bow and telling something, and faintly heard the laughter of children from time to time. At this time, Duke Stannis said, can my Dragonstone be like this? Davos replied, Duke Stannis, every place is different, it's difficult. Chapter 53, The Disliked Green. Stannis was silent for a while, then said, send someone to investigate and let me know what he did in King's Landing. Davos nodded in acceptance. Stannis asked again, can he serve me? Davos paused for a moment, then immediately returned to normal. Duke Stannis, the young baron may not know you yet. Stannis glanced at Davos with sharp eyes. No. Davos nodded slightly. If he knew your noble qualities, Baron Green would definitely turn to you instead of the Queen of Lannister origin. The wealth of Lannister can easily blind a young man's eyes. I have to say that you have lost the opportunity. Stannis snorted coldly. Golden dragons cannot buy loyalty. Davos agreed. Duke Stannis, Baron Green's governance and military capabilities are excellent, which is rare. He deserves your patience. King's Landing, Hook Lane, Green's study. Green's plan worked as expected. Not long after, Green successfully bid farewell to Princess Messiah and returned to the house in Hook Lane. Green was staring at a large map on the table. This was a map with a route from King's Landing to the Royal Forest, and it also marked in detail the locations of the hotels where the Royal Forest hunting team would stay overnight. The Royal Forest hunting team was an event held for the ladies of the Royal Territory. They all took carriages, and their tolerance had to be taken into consideration, so the team's speed could not be based on the marching speed of the army. The journey of the Royal Forest hunting team took a total of 5 days and 4 nights. Green roughly calculated the distance on the map, and the 4 hotels were distributed exactly according to the marching distance of 4 nights. The royal forest hunting was a royal event held every 2 years since the Targaryen dynasty. Green speculated that this route had formed a stable market, and the 4 hotels where the royal forest hunting team would stay were the products of this market. Green pinched his chin. There were routines, and the trivial details had experienced relevant persons in charge. His main job was to ensure the safety of the royal forest hunting team. It seemed that his job was not as tiring as he had imagined. Green pointed at the location of the royal forest on the map with his slender fingers. After arriving at the destination of the royal forest hunt, the whole team set up camp until the 7-day royal forest hunt ended. Green seemed to have found the direction to use the golden dragon. When it was almost evening, Green had just breathed a sigh of relief after arranging the trivial matters, and Lancel Lannister, with a slightly swollen cheek, suddenly came over. "Lancel, what's wrong with your face?" Lancel was about to laugh, but he gasped. It was Prince Joffrey. "I left the Red Castle as soon as the lunch ended, and he sent someone to call me back, saying that he wanted me to teach swordsmanship." Green leaned back slightly in his chair, his tone full of doubt. "Is it my illusion? I see that you are in good condition." Seeing that Green's servants had filled the wine, Lancel first reached out to pick up the wine glass and took a big sip, then said, "Prince Joffrey summoned me, and I couldn't refuse. I couldn't find Cousin Tyrion in a short time, so I had to go, and the result." After pausing for a while with a bitter face, Lancel continued, "After meeting Prince Joffrey. Let's not talk about this, I want to forget about it." Green nodded slightly. "The later part is the key point." "What's the later part?" Lancel's tone became excited and said, "Fortunately, Cousin Cersei showed up in time and happened to meet us." Green said nothing, but stretched out his hand to signal Lancel to continue speaking. "Cousin Cersei discovered the wound on my face and compensated me." Green showed a puzzled expression at the right time. "Oh, as soon as King Robert comes back, I have to serve as the king's squire. As you know, the royal hunt is an activity organized by the queen, and the king does not participate, so I can only miss this royal hunt. Cousin Cersei saw that I was injured by Prince Joffrey, and she has agreed to help as compensation, so that I can take up the position of the king's squire after returning from the royal hunt." Maybe it was due to his personality. Green could never empathize with Lancel's enthusiasm for such aristocratic activities. Without waiting for Green's reaction, Lancel said excitedly, "What a rare opportunity. Only during the royal forest hunting can you see all the noble ladies of the royal territory at once. The golden armor I brought from the Westland can finally come in handy. I have fantasized countless times about wearing my golden armor and meeting a beautiful and elegant lady in the lush royal forest." Green smiled and said, "I wish your dream will have a good result." Lancel didn't dare to laugh because of the wound on his face. He could only chuckle, which made his laughter sound obscene. Green asked, "Did you come to me on purpose to share your good news?" Lancel leaned forward slightly. "Are you still short of guards?" Green's thoughts turned and he understood Lancel's purpose. "Lancel, isn't your encounter a little too fast?" Lancel smiled embarrassedly. "Aha, you saw through it?" Green shrugged. "That's not difficult." Green's tone was a little serious, and he continued, "Lancel, regarding your marriage, I think your father must have made arrangements. As your friend, I would like to advise you to be careful and protect yourself. Your last name can be easily used by people with ulterior motives." Lancel's eyes were stunned for a while before he said, "Baron Green, what do you say if I..." Before Lancel could finish, Green interrupted directly, "I guarantee that you will be miserable." Lancel was at the age of fantasizing about beautiful love, and he asked a little unwillingly, "How miserable can it be?" "You don't want to know." After replying, Green sighed lightly, stood up from the chair, walked closer to Lancel, patted the somewhat depressed Lancel and said, "Lancel, this is also for the family. Only when your mind is clear can you control your emotions. If you want to wear the crown, you must bear its weight." Although Green was comforting Lancel, it seemed as if he was also talking to himself. Lancel raised his head and looked at Green with his big eyes. Lancel's occasional actions always made Green tremble secretly. Green kept his distance calmly. "Lancel, don't be depressed anymore, think about something happy. Maybe the old man of the 7 gods has already arranged everything for you." Tyrion likes to call him the old man of the 7 gods, and Green is inevitably influenced by Tyrion. Chapter 54, The Dislike. Green too. Lancel regained his spirits, with a pure smile of a young man on his face. "Don't worry, I will remember your good advice. Tyrion also said something similar to you. He told me that growing up is a kind of happiness after all." Green patted Lancel's shoulder again and sat back in his chair, I will arrange you to be the guard behind the Queen's carriage. I think that is where you want to guard. Lancel blinked. Can I still serve as a guard? What about your words just now? Green spread his hands. Just now I was comforting you as your friend. I think you have listened to it. Now I am still your friend, helping you and fulfilling your little wish. Lancel's eyes sparkled and said, Baron Green, you are so good to me. This time I owe you a favor. I promise, I won't do anything wrong. Hearing Lancel's promise like a vow, Green smiled. The rays of sunlight from the rising sun sprinkled all over King's Landing. Today is the day for the royal hunting team to set out. Queen Cersei will set out in a carriage from the Red Keep, pass through the inner city of King's Landing, and leave King's Landing from the Lion's Gate. Outside the Lion's Gate of King's Landing, Queen Cersei will first personally meet with the noble ladies who mainly come from King's Landing and the northern part of the crown to participate in the royal hunting. After the ceremony, the royal hunting team will officially set out in the direction of the royal forest in the south. The noble ladies who participate in the royal hunting in the southern part of the crown will join the Queen's royal hunting team one after another on the way according to the location of their territory. The noble ladies who participate in the royal hunting in some remote areas of the crown will not come to join the Queen's royal hunting team, but go directly to the destination of the royal forest. Wearing silver armor and blue cloaks, Green led a group of Lannister officers in red and gold robes, standing neatly beside the luxurious carriage, waiting for Queen Cersei to arrive. This time, there are 764 guards under Green who are responsible for the defense of the royal forest hunt, including 63 blue robes of Crab, 201 red robes of Lannister, 1 Lancel of Gath, and 500 gold robes. The noble ladies who participate in the royal forest hunt will also bring their own family guards. With a loud voice of the Queen is here, Queen Cersei, holding Princess Myrcella's hand and wearing the Queen's crown, appeared in everyone's sight. The Queen's crown inlaid with gems sparkled in the sun. The royal forest hunt has a sense of men walking away. Except for the accompanying guards and entourage, no other male nobles will participate, so Queen Cersei left Joffrey and Tommen in the Red Castle. Green and his group saluted in the direction where Queen Cersei was walking. Green lowered his head slightly and saw the gorgeous hem of Queen Cersei's skirt. He was always perceptive and noticed that Queen Cersei's eyes were on him. Queen Cersei's eyes only stayed for a short while. Baron Green, you did a good job. When Green heard Queen Cersei's praise and looked over, he could only see Queen Cersei's elegant back. Green was wondering why Cersei suddenly praised him. Princess Myrcella happened to look back at Green and met Green's eyes. Princess Myrcella's clear eyes were filled with a smile, and she nodded slightly. Green seemed to understand Princess Myrcella's eyes. And he also nodded slightly, then looked away. It turned out that Queen Cersei's praise was because of Princess Myrcella's matter. Green thought about it and thought that Queen Cersei really liked this. She would draw her sword if she disagreed with something. This was very Cersei. Green straightened his waist and saw Jaime Lannister following behind Queen Cersei at first sight. Today, Jaime did not wear the armor that he never took off. Instead, he wore a wine-red slit robe embroidered with the roar of a lion and black soft leather boots. A breeze blew Jaime's bright golden hair. Without armor, Jaime was less heroic, but more handsome. Jaime glanced at Green as he walked past. Green ignored Jaime's warning look and secretly despised Jaime. He was dressed so showy. Did he think he was going out for fun? Fun? Green seemed to have grasped something. Green felt that his decision to assign the guards yesterday was very good. He gave all the night guards for Queen Cersei to the red-robed Lannister. After Queen Cersei took Princess Myrcella's hand and sat in the carriage, Green waved his hand to signal everyone behind him to return to their respective positions. Lancel, wearing golden armor, smiled and led Green's mount to him, with his squire Martyr next to him, who looked helpless. After Green got on the horse, he took the whip from Lancel and waved his hand with a bit of disdain. When we get outside the city, you don't have to follow the carriage of Her Majesty the Queen. Keep an eye on it from behind. Come to me as soon as you find any problems. Hearing Green's accurate answer, Lancel nodded and left happily. Seeing that the team was ready to set off, Green first ordered some of the gold cloaks to set off first and lead the way for the team. After giving the order, Green shook the reins, rode to the side of the Queen's carriage, and said, "Your Majesty, everything is ready." Queen Cersei's cold voice came over, "Let's go." The gold cloaks were responsible for leading the way in front, and the whole team moved very smoothly. When the red sun was in the sky, the marching royal hunting team entered the Queen's area along the avenue. When Queen Cersei's carriage appeared, there was a wave of cheers. Inside the carriage, Princess Myrcella looked out the window and said happily, "Mom, they like you so much." Facing the admiring eyes of her lovely daughter, Queen Cersei raised her chin slightly, and her lips curled up slightly. "You can be like me in the future." Princess Myrcella shook her head. "Mom, look outside. You are so amazing. Father can't be loved like you." "I certainly can't do it." Although the cheers of the people in the Queen's district also made Cersei happy, she refused to give them a glance. What's the use of being loved by these lowly people? Queen Cersei has not forgotten that the people in the Queen's district had spread rumors and slandered her. If she hadn't decisively chosen Baron Green to deal with it at that time, I don't know what the result would be today. Now it's just become normal. She is the lioness of Lannister and should be supported by the flock by nature. Queen Cersei looked down at Myrcella. Queen Cersei's beautiful hand gently stroked Myrcella's golden curly hair. "Myrcella, your beauty is your most powerful weapon in the future." Myrcella looked up at Queen Cersei's clear eyes and showed doubt. Queen Cersei lowered her head and kissed Myrcella's forehead. "Mom will teach you in the future. Today is the second time to vote for the list. Please support me with your votes." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, The Disliked Green 3. Queen Cersei patted Princess Myrcella's back. Queen Cersei's eyes were a little dazed, and the cheers outside the carriage made her fall into distant memories. When she walked out of the Great September of Baelor hand in hand with the young King Robert Baratheon, the cheers of the crowd were just like today. Thousands of people came to King's Landing to bless her and King Robert's union. The square was unprecedentedly grand. All the women wore the most beautiful clothes, and half of the men had their children sitting on their shoulders. The tall and heroic Robert whispered in her ear that everyone loved her. Cersei, wearing the queen's crown, tried to fall in love with Robert. Cersei was ready to be the queen at ease. That day, Cersei Lannister married Robert Baratheon with infinite glory. That day, she won all the women in Westeros. However, Cersei Lannister's good mood did not last long. On the wedding night, Cersei Lannister, who was pressed down, endured the drunken Robert entering her body. Afterwards, she heard Robert whispering Lyanna's name in her ears. Lyanna Stark was once Robert Baratheon's fiancée. For the arrogant Cersei, Robert Baratheon's behavior was absolutely unforgivable. The living Lyanna took away Prince Rhaegar, whom she had secretly loved, and the dead Lyanna took away the heart of her new husband Robert. Cersei felt that she was defeated by Lyanna, and Lyanna's name became her shame. How could Cersei Lannister, a lioness who had been competing with men since she was a child, be defeated by a woman? The most hateful thing is that Lyanna has passed away, and she can't seek revenge. Cersei couldn't swallow this anger. The only time Robert Baratheon made Cersei Lannister wet was on their wedding night. Originally, Robert Baratheon should have been wiped out at that moment. Queen Cersei clenched her hands slightly. "Mom," Princess Myrcella seemed to have noticed Cersei's abnormality, and rolled her eyes in confusion, with worry on her little face. Queen Cersei withdrew her thoughts. "I'm fine, Myrcella, pay attention to your manners, and always remember your princess status." After hearing Queen Cersei's words, Myrcella immediately adjusted her posture obediently, and her little face raised her chin slightly proudly. Queen Cersei nodded, and a satisfied smile appeared on her face. A large group of people had gathered in an open area outside the Lion Gate of King's Landing, and the flags of various families were fluttering in the wind. When the carriage the queen was riding in stopped, the noisy crowd suddenly quieted down, and everyone saluted in the direction of the carriage. Queen Cersei would naturally not meet the ladies who participated in the royal forest hunt next to the carriage. A large tent had already been set up here for the queen to meet the ladies. The distance from the carriage to the tent was less than 100 meters, and it was covered with a burgundy carpet that Queen Cersei liked. These carpets were provided by a carpet merchant in King's Landing named Petrie. Green only wanted the number of times it was used, so the transaction content he discussed with the carpet merchant Petrie was also the use price, not the purchase price. Although it was the first time for Petrie to do such a transaction, he had also seen similar trading methods, so the transaction was reached very smoothly. According to the content of the transaction, Petrie would bring people to drive a carriage full of carpets and lay the carpets in advance at the place where Queen Cersei stayed. After the royal forest hunt is over and returns to King's Landing, Petrie will not only earn the carpet usage fee from Green, but the ownership of the carpet will still belong to him. As for the carpet that Queen Cersei stepped on, how Petrie will deal with it in the future, Green will no longer care. It is normal for the nobles of Westeros to lay carpets in their houses, but it is generally very rare to lay them on roads in the wild. It's not a waste problem, it's just that such a trend has not been formed. Green will not underestimate the nobles' lavishness for pomp and face. Queen Cersei stepped on the pre-laid carpet after getting off the carriage, and nodded with satisfaction. Green, the head of the royal forest hunt and the chief affairs officer, escorted Queen Cersei into the tent. Queen Cersei, who had been holding Myrcella's hand, handed Myrcella to the maid first, and then sat down. "Baron Green, you are very thoughtful." Queen Cersei was referring to the long tables on both sides of the tent, which were filled with various expensive fruits. From the carpet to the current fruits, they had never appeared in the previous royal forest hunt. Queen Cersei naturally knew that this was all arranged by Green. Green stroked his chest and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, as noble as you are, these are just small accompaniments arranged by this humble servant." Green would not tell Queen Cersei that after they left, Green's steward Serana would be responsible for arranging people to transport these fruits to Crab Manor in a low-key manner. There were merchants waiting to purchase this batch of fruits in Crab Manor, and Green's price would be very fair, which was worth their early waiting. Green paid for these expenses, including the carpets, with the additional funds for the royal hunting approved by the Minister of Finance Petirit. In addition, Green was the chief of the royal hunting appointed by Queen Cersei herself, so it was natural that Green had the final say on how to deal with these things. King Green was busy all day yesterday for today's operations. Queen Cersei took the wine glass handed over by the maid and took a sip. She said with a slight curl of her lips, "It will have some effect. At least those women who only like to hide behind men and gossip will be much more honest." Queen Cersei took another sip of summer red, handed the wine glass to the maid and ordered, "Fill the wine." Queen Cersei continued, "Every time there is a royal hunt, I'm tired of listening to their boring conversations." Queen Cersei shook the wine glass in her hand lightly and said, "Baron Green, because of you, I am a little interested in this royal hunt." Green saluted and said, "Thank you again, Her Majesty, for your appreciation." "I'm honored." Queen Cersei nodded slightly, her green eyes moved. "I was also surprised when I got the news. This is not an easy thing. I'm curious how you convince Littlefinger. I know that you men are generally not honest." Queen Cersei's words had hidden meanings. Green's heart moved. It was the annoying Jaime. Green secretly despised Jaime for not keeping his mouth shut in front of Cersei. Green spread his hands and said, "It was Lord Petitor who facilitated the meeting between me and Prime Minister Jon." Green added, "After all, his existence has been discovered. Lord Petitor may be afraid that we will not let him go." Queen Cersei raised the corner of her lips and leaned slightly to the armrest. "Littlefinger Petitor, what is your impression of him?" Green thought for a while and said, "Well, Petitor's bottom line is more flexible." Green was glanced at by Queen Cersei. Chapter 56, The Dislike Green, and only a small number of people who came to the audience were lords' wives with their nieces or sisters, and most of them were lords' wives with their own daughters. Queen Cersei received waves of noble ladies with a perfunctory smile on her face. Queen Cersei's perfunctory attitude did not reduce the enthusiasm of the noble ladies. After the greetings, there was a long paragraph of respect for Queen Cersei, then a long paragraph of praise for Princess Myrcella, followed by a long paragraph of praise for their own daughters, and finally the trivialities of life and noble gossip. They seemed to be completely unaware of Queen Cersei's almost stiff expression. Green wondered if these noble ladies were secretly competing with each other, such as who could see the Queen longer. When the noble ladies were seeing the Queen, Green, who was handsome at first, felt the eyes lingering on him from time to time. Before Green could feel good about himself for long, when Jaime entered the tent and stood opposite Green, Green was out of breath. Green was very sure that he and Jaime were not compatible. Jaime, with his fluttering blonde hair and red robe, was popular with both young and old. Although they all knew that Jaime of the Kingsguard could not marry, it did not prevent them from enthusiastically pursuing Jaime. Seeing that Jaime was so popular, Queen Cersei's smile to them became more natural. Green drooped his eyelids and no longer paid attention to the situation in the account. He focused his mind on the river reach and the trip to High Court after the royal forest hunt. Western region, Casterly Rock. Casterly Rock, located on the western coast of Westeros, is a tall and magnificent rock castle. It is the capital of the Westerlands and the seat of the Lannister family. Casterly Rock, as the name literally means, is carved on a huge rock, making the castle's defense more powerful. Casterly Rock, which has never fallen, is known as the largest, richest and most well-defended castle in Westeros. 53-year-old Kevan Lannister has golden hair and a short beard, round shoulders and a thick waist, and is a little fat. In the Battle of the Ninipani Kings, the 16-year-old Kevan Lannister was personally knighted by Lord Roger Reyes, the Red Lion, for his outstanding performance. Kevan Lannister spoke in a very respectful voice. "Lord Tywin, this is the latest intelligence from King's Landing." Kevan Lannister recognized the extraordinary qualities of his brother Tywin Lannister very early. He served as Lord Tywin's most trusted deputy for many years, and his loyalty and reliability were widely known. Tywin Lannister believed that some victories depended on paper, pen and raven. Lord Tywin's eyes did not leave the table, nor did he stop writing. "Kevan, is there any change?" Kevan replied, "Now in King's Landing, everyone is most concerned about the health of Prime Minister Jon." The Prime Minister found that he had been eavesdropped in his study. This made him very angry and he needs to be treated for a period of time. Lord Tywin's pen paused for a moment, but immediately returned to the original rhythm. "Is Lancel's matter going well?" Kevan nodded slightly. "Yes, Lancel has been appointed as His Majesty Robert's squire, although his face did not show it. When Lancel was confirmed as the king's squire, Kevan as a father was still very happy in his heart. Kevan's most respected brother Tywin also served as a squire of Aegon V in the Red Keep when he was young, so he was proud that Lancel could become the king's squire. Is Jaime still the same? Jaime never slackens his swordsmanship. What about smart Cersei? Lord Tywin asked Cersei with a strange tone. Cersei is very satisfied with her new steward, Glyn Crab. She is very satisfied with the handling of the Queen's quarter and has promoted him to be Cersei's chief steward. After writing the letter, Lord Tywin put down his pen and said, "My daughter who thinks she is smart, who only knows how to fight back firmly but never knows how to do it, has she found a satisfactory helper this time?" After saying that, Lord Tywin folded the letter and put it in the envelope, sealed it with mud and stamped it with the family seal. Kevan added, "Tyrion also admires Glyn Crab, because under his influence, Tyrion has recently increased his interest in politics." When Lord Tywin heard Tyrion's name, his brows twisted unconsciously. Jaime and Lancel both have a good impression of Green Crab. Lord Tywin put the envelope away, and his pair of light green eyes dotted with the gold looked at Kevan. "Is this a fox mixed in with a lion's?" "Excuse me, I think it's more like a beast that deliberately mixed in with a lion's." Lord Tywin shaved all his hair after he started to lose his hair, leaving thick golden beard on his temples. Lord Tywin, 55 years old this year, has broad shoulders and is still tall and slender. Lord Tywin picked up the letter Kevan brought and started reading. "Kevan, I trust your insight." Lord Tywin, "What should we do next?" "Kevan, leave it alone. My children think they have grown up, but they never know that they are more naive than children. They should also learn how to deal with smart subordinates, then we will remain on the sidelines. Now that Prime Minister Jon's health has affected his handling of the kingdom's affairs, do we need to do anything in King's Landing? Keep paying attention. It's not the right time yet. Today is the second day of the royal hunting team's march. The conscientious Green is leading the guards and is patrolling the entire royal hunting team. During the patrol, Green's ears moved. Don't be deceived by his appearance. My mother has already inquired about it. Well, I asked too. It's too scary. No wonder Her Majesty the Queen asked him to be in charge of the guards. Hearing this, Green silently gestured and stopped moving. What have you thought of? I just don't understand why Her Majesty the Queen would let such a person be responsible for our safety. Yes, tell me quickly. Yeah, think about it. The savages grew up with wild beasts, so their ears are different from ours and they can hear very far away, like a hound. SHH, he's a baron after all. I heard that Her Majesty the Queen likes him very much. Huh? He can't hear. You are too timid. Your uncle is the Earl of Maidenspring. Of course you are not afraid of a baron. Earl of Maidenspring? The Merton family? Green pinched his chin. Well, does he really only eat raw meat? My 7 gods, you haven't given up on him yet. I just doesn't look like it. The savages are very cunning. How could a silly girl like you figure it out? Oh, I also heard from my mother, and, if they take a fancy to you, they will carry you back to the cave directly. Listen, I didn't lie to you. If it weren't for me, you would have almost become the wife of the savage tribe, living in a cave and eating raw meat. Thank you. Chapter 57 Beautiful Misunderstanding. Green sighed secretly. Ignorance and barbarism, this is the impression most people have of the Crab Claw Peninsula. The descendants of the ancestors are good at fighting, mainly because they have been in a chaotic and harsh living environment for a long time. After the Andals came to Westeros with the faith of the seven gods, the only ones left in the land of the ancestors were the North and the Crab Claw Peninsula, where the living environment was harsh. As the land of the descendants of the ancestors, the North with a vast territory is much better than the Crab Claw Peninsula. About 1,000 years ago, the Stark family of Winterfell defeated the Bolton family of the Dreadfort, their biggest enemy, and made them give up their kingship and surrender. The Stark family roughly completed the unification of the North and ended the chaos in the North. On the contrary, the descendants of the ancestors of the Crab Claw Peninsula have never stopped fighting each other unless they are fighting against foreign enemies. Sometimes a hero will bring temporary peace to the chaotic Crab Claw Peninsula, such as the legendary hero Clarence Crabb of the Crab Claw family. But when the hero dies, everything returns to the original state of fighting each other. During the Usurper War, the nobles of the Crab Claw Peninsula, who were in the losing camp, suffered heavy casualties. After the war, the nobles of the valley, led by Duke John, continued to blockade and suppress the Crab Claw Peninsula for more than a decade, which made the fighting on the Crab Claw Peninsula even bloodier. The weak Crab Claw Peninsula also became an opportunity for Green to end the chaos in disguise. Green, who is broad-minded, will not be angry because of some words between girls. After Green's westward plan succeeds and controls the entire Crab Claw Peninsula, the next stage is to go west and walk out of the Crab Claw Peninsula to the west. Many nobles in the King's territory have tried to conquer the Crab Claw Peninsula, including the Merton family of Maiden Spring Town. Maiden Spring Town is in a good location, and Green suddenly feels that Maiden Spring Town should be set as the first target of the westward. Green's decision was due to the old feud between the Crab Claw Peninsula and the Merton family of Maiden Spring Town, and it was definitely not caused by the little niece of the Merton family. The camp outside the hotel, at night. Montan Wishu was eating a pot of meat. Ange, who was leaning against a tree, said weakly, "I can't drink. I feel like I can't muster up the energy." Mengdan Wishu smiled. Ange looked at Mengdan. "Mengdan, I see you are fine. Don't you like drinking too?" Ange paused and said, "It seems that everyone is used to it." Mengdan swallowed the food in his mouth and replied, "This is set by the Lord. During the combat mission, everyone is forbidden to drink. Everyone is the same as you at the beginning. You will get used to it." Ange sat next to Mengdan and whispered, "Will there be a battle?" Although his voice was very low, it did not hide the excitement in Ange's tone. Ange was eager to fight. He had a dream of being canonized as a knight. He wanted to accumulate merits. The more merits, the better. Montan shook his big head. "I'm not sure about that." Ange's tone became weak again. "That's right, this is the King's territory, and there is a queen here, who dares to attack us?" Montan comforted him naively. "Ange, drinking too much will still affect the battle. No one knows what will happen when you come out. The enemy will not show mercy just because you are drunk." Ange nodded slightly. "As a natural archer, he needs to be sober more. You are just uncomfortable because it's just the beginning. We are used to it. You will get used to it soon. There will be plenty of opportunities to drink in the future. It's important to stay alive." Ange was comforted by Montan. Ange looked at Montan with a naive face. "Montan, why do I suddenly feel that you know a lot?" Montan smiled naively. For the guards in the hotel, Green arranged for the red robes of Lannister to be in charge, and the gold robes and the blue robes of Crab to be responsible for the perimeter of the hotel. After the inspection, Green was sitting by the campfire outside the tent, looking up at the night sky. Green heard footsteps. Green's eyes moved slightly, and he found that it was Jaime who was wearing silver armor and was walking towards him. Jaime's face was not very good, and he sat on the other side of Green in a depressed mood. Green nodded slightly, as a greeting, and he was too lazy to speak, because we are not compatible. After a long while, Jaime coughed lightly. Faced with Jaime's familiar opening remarks, Green rolled his eyes in his heart. Jaime's voice was embarrassed. "Little Baron, let's talk." Green rolled his eyes again in his heart. If there is something, it's the Little Baron. If there's nothing, it's the little savage. A smile appeared on Green's face. Sir Jaime, you don't seem to be in a good mood, Green said, and gestured to the servants nearby. The servants brought 2 empty glasses, put the glasses down, and then filled them with wine. Jaime raised his glass and took a sip of summer red. After a moment of silence, he said, "You seem to know Cersei Queen's preferences very well. No one knows better than you, right?" Green spread his hands. "Sir Jaime, what do you want to hear?" There was another silence. Jaime leaned back slightly, and the starry night sky was in his sight. "I remembered what my father taught me. He told me that when I am confused, I can listen to other people's advice and think carefully about whether what he said makes sense." Green raised his right hand slightly and spread out 5 fingers towards Jaime. "The consultation fee is 5 gold royals, otherwise no deal. Jaime is worthy of being a Lannister." His green eyes moved and he immediately understood what Green meant. The Lannister line will never show any strangeness because someone bids against him. The handsome Jaime showed a shining smile, untied the purse on his waist, and threw it to Green. "No more, no less." Green caught the purse easily. Jaime misunderstood Green. "There are at least 50 gold dragons in this purse. This is a beautiful misunderstanding." Green, who was going to perfunctorily send him away, straightened his waist. Crab Claw Peninsula, a dense forest in the northeast of Crab's old land. The dagger in the hand of the Survey Corps soldier quietly pressed against the neck of a sentry from the savage tribe from behind. The dagger that suddenly appeared emitted a cold light, and the sentry shook his body unconsciously. The Survey Corps soldier covered the sentry's mouth with his other hand and cut the sentry's throat neatly. Late at night, the forest was quiet. Whoosh! This was the sound of an arrow breaking through the air. Before he could react, the Survey Corps soldier was shot on the chest, and with a bang, he fell straight to the ground, and his eyes gradually lost their light. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 3 Survey Corps soldiers who followed silently behind immediately shot in the direction where the arrow came from. "The enemy is prepared, you go and inform Sir Pell immediately." "Yes. There is death or life, Survey Corps, there is death or life. The sequelae of heatstroke are a bit serious, and my body is weak. I will update it once today. Sorry, I will make it up later. I will try to get into the state quickly and stabilize the update time and update volume. It won't be too long. Also, I fell out of the top 100 list again today. Please vote and push it up." Chapter 58 Herschel is distressed. A crude spear came out in response, and Night Pale dodged a wild man's thrust by leaning sideways. With a flash of sword light, he cut off the enemy's forearm. Night Pale did not stop moving, kicked the enemy over with 1 foot, and stepped forward to stab the enemy's neck and chest 3 times. With a whoosh, the sound of an arrow breaking through the air was heard. Night Pale was about to react when he felt pain in his side. The wild man's bone arrow pierced his leather armor, but was blocked by the chain mail inside. Night Pale cursed inwardly, and the thug grabbed the trembling feather-tailed arrow, pulled it out of the leather armor, and threw it on the ground. "Protect the knight, and the archers, uphill to the west, archers, fight back." The moonlight was full of worries, and the killing continued. A strong wild man who looked like a leader stared at Night Pale in front of him and gritted his teeth. Blood kept flowing out of his mouth, and his eyeballs gradually became bloodshot. The daggers in the hands of the soldiers of the Survey Corps kept stabbing the abdomen of the savage chieftain. In the past, the savage tribe was always attacked by the Survey Corps. Tonight was the first time that the Survey Corps was attacked by the savage tribe, which made the steady Night Pale feel a little angry. Night Pale glanced coldly at the body of the savage chieftain lying on the ground. The savage chieftain's intestines were leaking out, and his flesh was bloody after being stabbed by the Survey Corps. The deeper the valley, the more fierce the tribes. Night Mason, Night Pale's old colleague and old friend, has been responsible for building a new farm in the old land of Kleber, according to Lord Green's order. Night Mason's demand for food resources is increasing, and Night Pale has to speed up the conquest of the savage tribe. As the Survey Corps goes deeper, the resistance of the savages in the valley becomes stronger and stronger, and the casualties of the Survey Corps are gradually increasing. Every soldier of the Survey Corps is an elite carefully selected by Night Pale, and almost all of them are famous hunters in the local area. He needs more chainmail and shields. The warlike Night Pale has also felt physically exhausted recently. Night Pale feels that the Survey Corps must rest for a while. Next time, the Survey Corps will bring them real fear. In the camp, the summer night is starry. Jaime asked back, "Use fear, Green shrugged. Targaryen's dragon brought fear to the Seven Kingdoms, and Targaryen owns the Iron Throne. If the Mad King had a dragon, His Majesty Robert could only hold his invincible warhammer tightly and hide on the beach of the Stormlands to play smashing fish. Jaime wanted to smile without hesitation, but the smile was still forced. Green's brown eyes moved slightly, and for the sake of the Golden Dragon, he took the initiative to speak. Sir Jaime, I prefer to think from another's perspective. I mean, what would I do if it was me at that time? King's Landing was about to fall, and the Mad King wanted to burn the entire city with wildfire pots, and also demanded the head of my father. I have thought about it many times. What would I choose if it were me, and what else I could do? Jaime's body trembled slightly, and there was a glimmer of light in his eyes that had never been there before. Green looked up at the night sky and sighed softly. I think about it over and over again, and the conclusion is almost the same every time. Sir Jaime. Green's body leaned to the side, his eyes moved to Jaime, and he patted his arm with his hand. Although you have lost your honor, many people live because of you. Your choice is not too bad. Sir Jaime, you have an open mind and are not afraid of what others say. The quality of Jaime Lannister that Green admired most was that Jaime did not take advantage of others. This is simple to say, but it is very precious. Jaime suddenly felt that Green's wisdom was a bit dazzling. Jaime, who was full of emotion, felt that Tyrion's idea seemed okay after listening to Green's words. A small hint flashed across his mind. No, absolutely not. It was late at night, and Green was ready to rest. He would not care about Jaime's mood changes. For him, this was just a deal. Before leaving, Green suddenly said, Sir Jaime, if you meet a stubborn person, you can also ask back. This is Green's gift. The sky was clear and blue at Crab Manor outside King's Landing. There were many more grooms in the manor, and they were taking care of the horses carefully at this time. Steward Roselle, who had dealt with the funeral of the former Master Jeffreys, was sitting in the pavilion of Crab Manor with Steward Cyrana. Steward Cyrana was wearing a long skirt and a dagger tied to the belt around her waist. Roselle couldn't help but take a few more glances. Roselle used to take care of Jeffreys and King's Landing and had never been to Crab's territory. Roselle had heard a lot about the reputation of the Kleber Spearwife from Jeffreys. It's hard to imagine the scene if you haven't seen it with your own eyes. Cyrana took the initiative to solve Roselle's doubts. This sword? The merchants in King's Landing are very cunning. Since I brought this, they have become much more honest. Roselle smiled. Ms. Cyrana, as long as the method works. Cyrana didn't intend to continue this topic, and said, I thought I could relax for a while, but I didn't expect Lord Green to take you south. Roselle nodded and said, we will be back soon, then wait for you to come back. I have confirmed that I am not suitable for dealing with merchants. Okay, Mom, then I will leave immediately. Crab Claw Peninsula, Whispering City, the red sun is in the sky. Although the middle-aged butler Herschel has been busy, he is a little fatter than before Green set out. After the recovery of Kleber's old land, as the mountain savages continue to join the new farms managed by Knight Mason, the population there has continued to grow. Although the Wild Tribe Expeditionary Army, mainly composed of the Survey Corps and the Thorn Corps, can continuously plunder supplies, the speed of plundering is a bit behind the speed of population growth. Herschel needs to purchase a batch of food in advance to stockpile and be ready to support the old land of Crab. The recently built Mermaid Port has not yet attracted the interest of large trading companies. The merchants who come to the Mermaid Port for trading are still small merchants, so larger-scale transactions still have to rely on the merchants in the valley. The gold dragons that the Lord has finally obtained from King's Landing may have to be sold cheaply to the grain merchants in the valley. Herschel felt very distressed when he thought about the 1,000 gold dragons he had just put into the warehouse. After Miss Lyanna Crab married to Seagull Town a few years ago, the nobles of the valley lifted the trade blockade of Crab's territory, but the prices of goods traded by the merchants in the valley for Crab were still high. Moreover, the Crab's territory did not continue to trade with the merchants in the valley for a period of time. When Herschel thought of this, he began to feel sorry for the gold dragons in the warehouse. Butler Herschel was Green's absolute confidant, and he naturally understood that the Kleber territory could not stop the speed of converting the savages into the people, which was related to the future of the territory. Herschel believed that as long as they could hold on for this period of time, the wheat on the large tracts of farmland in the old land would grow sooner or later. Chapter 59, Prime Minister's Tower Bedroom. Just as he had thought about the food problem in the old land of Kleber, Herschel began to have a headache for another matter in the territory. As the reputation of the Thorn Corps grew, the spearwomen of Kleber became more and more fierce. Herschel, the butler who also served as the governor of Mermaid Port, received reports from the sheriff that several spearwomen had forcibly carried men away in Mermaid Port. With the operation of Mermaid Port, more and more outsiders came every day, and the injured men were often these outsiders. Faced with the fierce spearwomen of Kleber, most men would be helpless. The only thing that comforted Herschel was that the men who were injured by the spearwomen were embarrassed to publicize their experiences everywhere, and they would take the initiative to keep their mouths shut, which would not affect the reputation of Mermaid Port for a while. According to the Lord's idea, most of the trade in the Kleber territory in the future will be concentrated in Mermaid Port. Therefore, it cannot be delayed and must be dealt with in time. Mermaid Port will be affected sooner or later over time. Herschel was not unfamiliar with this behavior of carrying people, because the custom of carrying people has always existed in the Kleber territory. According to the knowledge passed down from generation to generation in Herschel's family, in order to adapt to the aristocratic circle and improve the image of the territory, the previous generations of Kleber family heads have been deliberately governing this custom of carrying people. But the Kleber territory at that time, which is now called the Old Land by Kleber, was vast and the people were scattered. In addition, Kleber's ancestors were not good at governance, so it was always superficial, and this custom was still prevalent in private. It was not until after the usurper war that Green's mother, Mrs. Kleber, led the tribe to migrate to the current new land. After the people who followed them gathered together, they issued a clear order to ban it, which was considered a thorough improvement. Under Mrs. Kleber's governance for more than 10 years, this custom almost disappeared. Now, with the continuous absorption of savages into the Kleber territory, this custom has some signs of revival. What made Herschel feel embarrassed was that Mrs. Crab only issued a territory decree prohibiting robbing civilian women, but did not prohibit robbing civilian men. Thinking of Mrs. Crab, Herschel felt that it was time to regulate Crab's spearwives. The matter of robbing civilian men by the spearwives can only be restricted by the Lord himself. Before receiving Green's order, Butler Herschel could only urge the sheriff to strengthen patrols. Butler Herschel picked up the quill again and added this matter under the content of the letter to Green. The long Royal Forest hunting team was slowly moving south along the avenue. Green, who had just reported the general itinerary of the day to Queen Cersei, who felt a little more beautiful than usual, was riding side by side with Lancel. Although not as good as Jaime, the handsome Lancel was also very popular with ladies and girls. Green, who was discriminated against by their region, was a little envious and jealous of Lancel. Lancel kept smiling. Green, I feel like they are all secretly looking at me and deliberately talking to me. This feeling is very strange and wonderful. Green glanced at Lancel's little face. He felt that the ladies must like him very much. Wonderful? Green thought maliciously. Should he arrange it privately and send the innocent Lancel to the tent of the ladies, leaving an indelible and wonderful memory in his life? He. Lancel lowered his voice and said, "Don't worry, Green, I remember your warning and I will keep a good distance." Green, who stood up straight, nodded slightly. "I believe you can handle it." Hearing the affirmation in Green's words, Lancel was very happy and nodded heavily. Lancel raised his eyebrows and asked Green, "Green, how are you? I remember you don't have a fiancé yet. Yesterday, I saw you patrolling the team. Did you meet anyone who attracted you?" Green slightly moved the reins to adjust the direction of the horse and said, "They are not suitable for me. I don't want to waste time." Lancel's handsome face was replaced with a puzzled expression. "Not suitable?" Green turned his head to look at Lancel. "I just recovered the old land of my family. My territory will not be stable in the short term." Lancel nodded slightly, and Green continued, "The nobles of the royal territory live as comfortably as sheep. The daughters of sheep cannot adapt to the mountains and forests full of wild beasts." Lancel agreed very much. Their Lannister family is a group of lions, and the nobles of the royal territory are just a flock of sheep in front of the Lannisters. Alice, Green is right. His father will never agree to him looking for a partner in the flock of sheep. Lancel felt that Green's marriage was not as easy as he looked on his face. The simple Lancel secretly felt sorry for Green. "My sister is too young, otherwise they would be a good match, and my father would be very satisfied with Green." Lancel refers to his biological sister, Jaina Lannister, who was born this year. Lancel, who was riding on a horse, had a lot of changes on his face. Green was a little speechless. He felt that Lancel's generation of Lannisters had their own characteristics. Red Castle, Bedroom in the Prime Minister's tower. Lord Jon Arryn, who was leaning on the head of the bed, had a thinner face and looked older. Lord Petyr Baelish, the Chancellor of Finance, who was standing by the bed, was reporting the kingdom's political affairs to Lord Jon Arryn. Petyr, hasn't His Majesty Robert returned yet? Lord Petyr shook his head slightly. My lord, the king is on his way back. Lord Jon sighed weakly, and after a moment of silence, he said, taxes. I won't ask about this. I believe you will handle it without me saying more. Petyr, you are a trustworthy person. Lord Petyr smiled appropriately and nodded in thanks. Petyr, you are someone I trust. Because of my physical condition, I have to consider my funeral in advance. Who do you think is suitable to take over as Prime Minister after me? Lord Petyr's eyes trembled slightly. My lord, Mr. Pycelle has promised me that you will get better soon. Lord Petyr's words still comforted Lord Jon unconsciously. Lord Jon nodded slightly. Life is like the weather, unpredictable. If you are prepared for everything, you will never be in a hurry. This is my duty. Lord Petyr did not rush to answer Lord Jon's inquiry, but asked, my lord, do you have a candidate? After thinking for a while, Lord Jon said, well, there is one, but it is difficult. I know him. I don't think he will be willing to take over as Prime Minister. He doesn't like the atmosphere here, but he is the best fit for His Majesty Robert. He is the best fit for His Majesty Robert? Petyr's mind moved, and he had guessed the identity of him in Lord Jon's mouth. Will the wolf run go south? Thank you for your support. Chapter 60 The High Court Messenger Who Should Not Appear. Duke Jon suddenly asked, has the royal hunting been held on schedule? This was the second time. Duke Jon had asked the same question yesterday. Petyr lowered his head slightly, and a flash of sarcasm flashed across his lips. Yes, they have all set off, and the noble ladies of the royal territory have also come as scheduled. You can rest assured. Duke Jon nodded slightly. Petyr, you must remember not to underestimate this kind of activity. It will capture people's hearts without them realizing it. Petyr stroked his chest and nodded, his voice very respectful. Thank you for your teachings, my lord. I will keep it in mind, Queen. Petyr noticed that Duke Jon, who was about to speak, seemed to be lost in thought and stood quietly aside. After a long while, Lord Jon finally spoke. I have been dealing with government affairs for many years and have seen all kinds of people. Thinking of the little baron named Green always makes me feel uneasy. It's ridiculous. He is just a teenager. I don't know why I have this feeling. Petyr's eyes moved and he comforted, you may be too tired. No one will be in a good state when they are tired. Lord Jon ignored Petyr's comfort and continued, Queen Cersei's willfulness is unpredictable. People with this kind of personality must not be allowed to hold a sharp sword in their hands. She will eventually do something surprising. Believe in the judgment of an old man. My honor does not allow me to slander Her Majesty the Queen. Lord Jon raised his slightly trembling hand, and Petyr hurried forward and held it with both hands. The people of Crab Claw Peninsula are a group of beasts in human skin, a bloodthirsty sword. Lord Jon is a very pragmatic person and will not exaggerate things. Hearing this, Petyr suddenly felt a chill on his chest where Green cut him. Petyr, we have to find a way to get this bloodthirsty sword out of the Queen's hands. Petyr naturally understood what Lord Jon meant. This meant that he had to deal with Baron Green, or at least drive him out of King's Landing. Petyr had a headache. He actually didn't want to contact Baron Green again in the short term. After thinking over and over again during this period of time, Petyr had a further understanding of the Game of Thrones. Military nobles like Baron Green would abide by the rules of the game when it was in their favor, but when they were in an unfavorable situation, they would not abide by any rules of the game. They would choose to use the most primitive violence. After realizing this, Petyr felt complicated. Although Petyr thought a lot in an instant, he didn't show it on his face. Lord Duke, in fact, your method is very good. Sending Baron Green to kill the Targaryen dragon is justified. Petyr was a confidant promoted by Lord Jon, and he knew a lot of things about Lord Jon. Petyr curled his lips and patted the back of Lord Jon's hand. You have given him a month of mercy. If he refuses, he will not be able to stay in King's Landing, because His Majesty Robert will not. Petyr's eyes were full of reverence. If Baron Green accepts, he will have to leave King's Landing. The Targaryen dragons are across the strait. You are a good chess player. In fact, you have already completed the layout. Just wait for good news. In the royal forest, under the blue sky, the branches of the trees are intertwined. There was no rain along the way. and the Royal Forest hunting team arrived at the destination on time. As early as in King's Landing, Green had arranged for people to set off with a temporarily recruited craftsman. All the tents that the Queen wanted to use had been built before they arrived, and the floor of the tent was a wooden floor that had been laid in advance. This morning, the carpet merchant Petrie, who arrived early, also laid his mirror carpet on the floor. Green could only do this because of lack of time. The rest was customary. He mainly used the additional money he got from Petyr to improve Queen Cersei's satisfaction. Queen Cersei, who was in a good mood, didn't care how many gold dragons Green had spent and how many gold dragons were left. As for the tents of others, Green kept the usual practice, and the busy crowd was starting to build them. In the Queen's tent. At this time, there were only Cersei and Green. Queen Cersei was a house girl who preferred to stay in the Red Castle most of the time. She never liked dirt roads and dust, so she was very satisfied with Green's careful arrangements. Queen Cersei was wearing a slit nightgown made of tulle, and her delicate body was looming, which made Green's eyes know where to put. I can't collapse my character, which will make Boss Cersei less fun, so Green had to lower his eyes to study the pattern of the mirror carpet below. Queen Cersei still had a full glass of summer red in her hand. Queen Cersei glanced at Green's appearance with a smile in her eyes. Lord Green, has there been a reply from Highgarden? Green raised his brown eyes and looked at Queen Cersei. Yes, Your Majesty, the messenger from Highgarden has just arrived. My clansmen are in charge of the outer surveillance over there, and I have directly arranged the messenger from Highgarden to other places so that he will not be discovered by the people here. After rubbing the cup with her fingertips for a while, Queen Cersei took a sip of summer red before saying, You did a good job. It was right to stop the messenger from the inflatable fish. Don't let him appear in front of people for the time being. Green shrugged his shoulders and said helplessly, I just made more preparations out of habit. In fact, I didn't really want my arrangements to be useful. I can only guess that the Duke of Highgarden was too happy when he knew you were going to send an envoy. After a pause, Green continued, Our ravens hinted that there were important things to discuss. Normally, both parties would have a tacit understanding. For example, I went to Highgarden in the name of purchasing grain. Green was both official and private. He ran around for Queen Cersei and bought a batch of grain for the territory. Queen Cersei glanced at Green. My little baron, did you find anything? Green spread his hands. It was originally a normal thing, but something abnormal happened. I think there must be something we didn't expect. Someone in Highgarden may not want to see the Duke of Highgarden and Her Majesty establish friendship. Queen Cersei put the wine glass on the table with a bang, staring at Green with her beautiful eyes, and said coldly, Who is it? Who dares to interfere with my business? I can't tell Queen Cersei even if I guessed it. What if she asked me to go to Highgarden and kill someone in a rage? It's not easy to work for Boss Cersei. Green actually missed Jaime. If he was here, even if Queen Cersei said it, he would take the initiative to stop it. Jaime has been a little irresponsible recently. He has always been inseparable, so why is he often not by Queen Cersei's side? Green stepped forward and picked up the wine jug to pour the wine. Your Majesty, anyone in Highgarden could be the one. There is no clear person for the time being. After filling the wine jug, Green put the wine jug back and said, When I get to Highgarden, if anyone appears to hinder Your Majesty, I will deal with them one by one. Queen Cersei leaned back in her chair in a willful manner, picked up the wine glass again, and raised the corners of her lips. Then they have to be careful. They don't know that your sword is sharp. Queen Cersei raised the wine glass, raised her beautiful chin and took a sip of summer red. I agree. Thank you very much for your support. Chapter 61 Control the Rhythm. Green's tent in the Royal Forest Camp. After saying goodbye to Queen Cersei, Green learned about Jaime's whereabouts from the soldiers of the tribe. It turned out that Jaime had been teaching Princess Myrcella riding skills recently. When the two were alone, Green felt that Boss Cersei was becoming more and more interested in teasing him, and he needed Jaime as a shield. Queen Cersei knew that beauty was her most powerful weapon, and she was extremely talented in using beauty tricks. Green knew in his heart that Queen Cersei was using her beauty to win over his body and mind. As Green continued to make various contributions, the degree of Queen Cersei's beauty tricks also increased. Queen Cersei was using her own way to control Green step by step, so that she could reuse Green with confidence. The mature Green believed that if it were another young person, facing Queen Cersei's beauty trick, she would have been ruined by her. Green would not forget his original intention, and he needed to control the rhythm in his own hands. Green needed Jaime. Green felt that he could completely replace the task of teaching Princess Messiah how to ride a horse, and Jaime should immediately return to his original position and accompany Queen Cersei at all times. King Green immediately used the issue of the Highgarden messenger as an excuse to get Queen Cersei's consent and released some of the Lannister red robes to expand the outer cordon together with Crab's blue robes. The most important thing was the guards around Queen Cersei. The gold robes were not trustworthy, so some of the Lannister red robes were transferred away. The Queen needed a strong Jaime to fill the defense force. Green recommended himself to Queen Cersei and took over the riding teaching of Princess Myrcella from Jaime. Queen Cersei agreed to Green's plan without much consideration. She also liked Jaime's company. She was a little uncomfortable with the lack of Jaime's company recently. Finally, Green took the reins of the little white horse from Jaime, who had a dark face, and took over the task of teaching Princess Myrcella how to ride. 3 days passed. Although the noble ladies in the Royal Forest camp were avoiding him intentionally or unintentionally, the popularity of the Kleber soldiers in the camp has increased a lot. Most of the Kleber soldiers have been hunters since their grandfather's grandfather's grandfather. As natural hunters, they are naturally good at hunting. Under Green's arrangement, Kleber's blue robes went out in batches, bringing rich prey to the camp and enriching the food on everyone's plates. In the lively camp, everyone cheered for Kleber's soldiers. The Royal Forest camp, night fell. Green sat by the campfire and looked at the lively crowd in the distance. The main dish of the camp dinner today is wild boar meat roasted with mushrooms and apples. The protagonists of the banquet are all women. They all hold a glass of summer red in their hands, and the atmosphere is warm. Green's ears moved and heard the footsteps coming towards him. A little bored, Green guessed the height and weight of the person coming in his mind through the footsteps. At the reaction distance of the normal person, Green turned his eyes to the direction of the person coming at the right time. The person who came was a girl of 15 or 16 years old, with brown eyes, brown hair, fair skin, medium height and a slightly plump figure. The girl greeted him, "Good night, Baron Green." It was a rumormonger. Green recognized the girl's identity, but did not show it on his face. He stood up and said in return, "Good night, young lady, who are you?" The girl smiled appropriately, "Please forgive my presumption. My name is Tayana Mutin, and the Earl of Maiden Spring is my uncle." Maiden Spring is a major port and trade center in Crab Bay. The Mutin family of Maiden Spring is a noble family in the Riverlands, and the current head of the family is Earl William Mutin. Royal hunting is an activity of the nobles of the royal territory. When Green eavesdropped a few days ago, he wondered why a noble lady with a surname from the Riverlands would appear here, but he did not investigate it in detail. After all, no one stipulated that other members of the Mutin family could not settle down in King's Landing. When the girl mentioned the Earl of Maiden Spring, Green caught a moment of pride on her face. At Green's invitation, Tayana Mutin also sat beside the bonfire. The full moon was high in the sky, and the moonlight was soft. Green ordered the servant to bring the wineglass, but Tayana Mutin shook her head apologetically and refused. Green's brown eyes moved slightly, and he didn't say anything, just asked the servant to fill a glass for him. Green took a sip of summer red and said, "Miss Mutin, why didn't you attend the banquet?" Tayana Mutin lifted her hair. "You can call me Tayana." At night, a man and a woman alone, it was not difficult for Green, who is always perceptive, to guess Tayana Mutin's purpose. Green's mind turned. "I was calculated by a little girl." Green was not angry at all. Green nodded slightly. "Okay, I'm honored, Miss Tayana." Tayana Mutin smiled, naturally adjusted her skirt, and pulled up the hem of her skirt, revealing a section of her white calf. Green, who had seen many of Queen Cersei's beauty schemes, compared the huge gap between Tayana Mutin and Queen Cersei in terms of professionalism. Green took another sip of summer red with a calm expression. The smile on Tayana Mutin's face became a little stiff. Did he understand what she meant at this time? Although she didn't say it clearly, at this time, in this atmosphere, Tayana Mutin felt that she had expressed it very clearly. "Baron Green, you can start pursuing Tayana Mutin now." Tayana Mutin began to feel a little annoyed. No matter how she dressed up, she was still a half-savage noble. She just had no interest. Tayana Mutin sorted out her thoughts and answered Green's first question. "I have not been used to a lively environment since I was a child, so I left quietly. I happened to see you and walked over unconsciously. Baron Green, I hope I didn't disturb you." Green shook his head slightly and answered very professionally, "It's okay, Miss Tyanna, you are free in the camp, and the guards will protect your safety." Tyanna Mutton had to thank him first. Green was the prey targeted by Tyanna Mutton. Since the nobles of the royal territory had an inherent impression of the Crab Claw Peninsula, her plan was easily successful. Combined with the Green's behavior, if you think about it carefully, Tyanna Mutton's plan is actually full of loopholes. No one cares, no one will explore. Green thought more, the Crab Claw Peninsula has no allies. The North, as a descendant of the ancestors, may be naturally close to the Crab Claw Peninsula. But the distance between the North and the Crab Claw Peninsula is too far. The future Crab Claw Peninsula Guardian Green's choices have always been limited. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62, Pedder's Swordsmanship. In most people's minds, Crab Claw Peninsula is a backward and barbaric area, and Green is a half-wild noble from Crab Claw Peninsula. Therefore, perhaps Tanya Mutton feels that her surname Mutton is more noble in front of Green. Tanya Mutton hooked her finger. Green should be grateful and honored, and obey obediently. Green can only say that Tanya Mutton not only knows how to attack competitors, but also has some tricks, that's all. Tanya Mutton's immature means, in Green's view, are like playing with a warhammer in front of King Robert. Green suppressed the urge to draw his sword. Green always felt that he was a little bit led astray by the simple soldiers of all tribes. Green rubbed his jet black hair and raised his hand to stop Tanya Mutton's words. "Miss Mutton, I want to ask if your behavior is influenced by Earl William of Maiden Springtown, or by yourself." Tanya Mutton, who was interrupted, was furious. At the same time as she was angry, she also recalled the meaning of Green's words, and her heart trembled. Did he know it a long time ago? Tanya Mutton was a little panicked, and her first thought was to escape. "Baron Green, I don't quite understand what you mean. It's late at night." Green changed his indifferent look. His eyes gradually sharpened. "If this is Earl William's idea, I will understand it as a declaration of war." The kind-hearted Green planned to teach Tanya Mutton a lesson. Maybe it is the inheritance of the Mutton family? The Mutton family, who overestimated their own strength, united with some small families and wanted to conquer the land of the Crab Claw Peninsula. The weak red salmon were defeated by the Crab Claw Peninsula. If the Long family hadn't come forward to stop it, the surname Mutton would have disappeared long ago. Tanya Mutton said angrily, "How dare you insult our family?" Green's tone was cold. "Isn't your behavior the same?" Tanya Mutton opened her mouth and was speechless in response to Green's question. Green waved his hand and said, "It's late at night, Miss Mutton. Go back and rest." Tanya Mutton was worried that she had caused a big disaster, but after thinking about it, it was unlikely. Although Baron Green was cold to others, he gave her the impression that he would not make a fuss. The two families would not go to war over such a small matter. Thinking of this, Tanya Mutton breathed a sigh of relief. Tanya Mutton, who was frightened by Green's words, finally calmed down. At this point, Tanya Mutton knew that it was impossible for her and Green to be together. Tanya Mutton just secretly thought it was a pity. It was still rare for a man who inherited the family at a young age and was not married. Tanya Mutton reflected that she was too dependent on the inherent concepts, which made her mentality always high, and she never seriously observed Baron Green, who was an outlier in the Crab Claw Peninsula. Without outstanding qualities, he would not become the favorite of Queen Cersei in everyone's mouth. Tanya Mutton also learned a lot of lessons from this incident. Tanya Mutton also felt a little sorry for Green, and lifted her skirt slightly towards Green's hands, and nodded to say goodbye. Green's brown eyes stared at Tanya Mutton's receding back and pinched his chin. The next day, the Prime Minister's tower in the Red Keep. Duke John was always worried about the kingdom's affairs. After a few days of bed rest, Prime Minister John, who had barely recovered, returned to the Prime Minister's study again and began to deal with the accumulated affairs. Pedder assisted Duke John in the Prime Minister's study and provided advice from time to time. Duke John was busy, and the servants suddenly came to report that Duke Stannis wanted to see him. Why did Stannis come back? Duke John was very surprised by the sudden appearance of Duke Stannis, and told the servant to come in. Soon, Duke Stannis entered the Prime Minister's study. Duke Stannis, with a tense face, asked for the greetings and sat down without waiting for Duke John to signal. Duke Stannis would never omit the necessary etiquette, and he would never add any extra courtesy. Peter's gray-green eyes trembled slightly, and he stood aside silently, curling his lips secretly. Prime Minister John, I heard about this study. On the way here, I heard that you gave such an important matter to Janus to investigate. That greedy and incompetent idiot. With a thud, Duke John put down the documents in his hand and looked at Duke Stannis with turbid eyes. Stannis, is this the reason why you came back suddenly? Duke Stannis snorted coldly. Why do you allow the spread of slanderous words against the Queen in the Queen's district? Duke John trembled his lips and did not speak. What about Renly? As the Lord Chancellor of Justice, don't you know what the crime is to slander the royal family without evidence? Duke Stannis stared at Duke John with a sharper look. What kind of dirty conspiracy is this? The most ridiculous thing is that this matter was handled by a Queen's Affairs officer in the end. The Prime Minister is so incompetent. Arriving in front of the Prime Minister's tower, Duke Stannis inspected the Queen's district and had already viewed the retained execution files at the police station. Green, who was very careful, asked Leighton to record the crimes of each criminal in detail according to his requirements, including defamation of the royal family. The contents of the file were so detailed that it seemed too much, but Duke Stannis read them carefully word by word. After reading the file, even the always strict Duke Stannis nodded slightly. Baron Green also had talent in law. Duke John's eyes also became sharp. Stannis, are you questioning? Duke Stannis' mouth corners curved sarcastically. Actually, I want to impeach, but I know it's useless here. Duke John's chest rose and fell gradually. Stannis, the kingdom cannot be governed by laws alone. Duke Stannis straightened his waist. Honorable Prime Minister, then tell me what it takes to govern the kingdom? The absolute power to convict based on a song. In the future, anyone who commits a crime only needs to sing a song from the Crab Claw Peninsula, and the murderer will become Baron Crab. Do you think that Justice Minister Renly is not incompetent enough, and want to make him appear more incompetent? Stannis, you are too paranoid. This is not a simple legal issue, this is politics. Duke John was panting after speaking, his forehead was covered with cold sweat. Duke Stannis snorted again. Prime Minister John, you are treating the laws of the kingdom as your own private property. I will never allow this. You, cough cough cough. Duke John couldn't help but cough. Peter, who had been silent, hurried over. Duke John waved his hand stubbornly. Peter couldn't help but speak up for Duke John. Your Excellency Duke Stannis. Baron Crab is just a small man from the Crab Claw Peninsula. He will not affect the justice of the law, and the Prime Minister did not pursue him later. Duke Stannis frowned and stared at Peter with sharp eyes. Because he is a so-called small man, can he do whatever he wants? I tell you, there is no distinction between big and small people in front of the laws of the kingdom. As the Minister of Finance in front of the king, don't you understand that a small loophole can sink a big ship? Peter, is this how you manage the finances of the kingdom? Peter opened his mouth, but was speechless. He stood there with a slightly embarrassed expression. Lord John coughed a few more times and said weakly, Peter, please leave. Peter, who had stabbed him at the right time, looked at Lord John with a worried look. Peter shrugged helplessly and quietly stepped back. Chapter 63 Unshakable. The astute Peter felt that Ian Green had underestimated the fighting power of Duke Stannis. Duke John's eyes were closed weakly at this time, and his breathing was very weak. If Green were here, he might be happier that Duke John was stimulated to die directly. But what Peter wanted was to let Duke John continue to lie in bed so that he could continue to usurp the power of the Prime Minister, not to let him die on the spot. Peter stood up, and the usual elegant smile on his face had long disappeared. He stared at Duke Stannis and said in a deep voice, Duke Stannis, you have seen it too. I think today's conversation can end. Duke Stannis snorted coldly and said, Peter, do you think there is something wrong with what I said? Peter shook his head slightly. Duke Stannis, I am just a finance minister, I will not judge. Peter did not want to discuss right and wrong with Duke Stannis. He just wanted to send him away immediately. Duke John needed rest very much. Stannis stood up from his chair. Perhaps because of his tall stature, Peter, who was of medium build, felt pressured. Duke Stannis said coldly, the kingdom is controlled by you, a bunch of mediocre ministers. Duke Stannis' eyes moved to Duke John, who was leaning weakly on the back of the chair, and his eyes were cold. Weakness should not be an excuse to ignore the law. If you don't listen to my words, then think more about the kingdom. After Duke Stannis finished speaking, he glanced at Peter with cold eyes, and said nothing more. He saluted Duke John, turned around and left the Prime Minister's study directly. After leaving the Prime Minister's tower, Duke Stannis stood still and looked sharply in the direction of the throne room. Duke Stannis thought of the royal minister that King Robert relied on, and he felt a little powerless in his heart, but this feeling of weakness was only fleeting. At least he is still there. Stannis is still there. Lord Stannis took another step, his steps firm, his heart as strong as iron. He was an unshakable man. Not long after Stannis left, Lord Jon opened his eyes. Lord Jon seemed to have returned to normal, but Petyr, who knew Lord Jon, could see at a glance that Lord Jon was now strong on the outside but weak on the inside. Petyr raised the corners of his lips obscurely. It seemed that Lord Stannis had stimulated Lord Jon quite a bit. This degree was just right. Lord Jon sighed, his voice full of fatigue. Stannis, his temper is still the same, stubborn and stubborn. Petyr asked worriedly, Lord Duke, how is your health? Lord Jon exhaled, his face tired. It seems that my government affairs have to be moved back to the bedroom again. Petyr's figure was about to move. I'll go ask Mr. Pycelle. Lord Jon waved his hand weakly, stopping Petyr, who had changed his usual calmness and looked anxious. Call Pycelle over in the evening when there are fewer people. After hesitating for a moment, Petyr nodded silently in agreement. Petyr, don't pay attention to what Stannis said. Lord Jon thought for a while, then said, although he is stubborn and hard, and easy to be disliked, it is hard to hate him. Lord Jon sighed again. He is too obsessed with the law, and his subordinates are miserable. After a pause, Lord Jon said to Petyr, many people think that His Majesty Robert favors his younger brother and Fef Storm's End to Renly, but for Stannis, who has made great contributions, there is a reason for this. If the Stormlands were handed over to Stannis, with his harshness, the Baratheon vassals would soon be in chaos. The kingdom was in urgent need of stability at that time. According to His Majesty Robert, throwing the bad-tempered Stannis into Dragonstone was the best choice. It is surrounded by the sea and he can do whatever he wants there. Unfortunately, with His Majesty Robert's temper, he didn't take the matter of appeasing Stannis to heart, and the Baratheon brothers almost turned against each other. Petyr, I tell you this because I hope your eyes can see deeper. Petyr touched his chest and nodded, and said respectfully, yes, my Lord Duke, I will remember your teachings. In the Royal Guard, a gold cloak officer named Stephen had an accident. In a corner of the camp, Green looked at the bloody body of the gold cloak and frowned slightly. The first thing Green did after retracting his gaze was to issue a gag order. Although the death of the gold cloak Stephen was an accident, it was a death after all. If it was allowed to spread, it would easily cause panic among the people. Did he get drunk and go deep into the dense forest by himself? A golden-robed man answered Green's question. Yes, sir. Stephen is very strong and has superb swordsmanship. Although he drank too much, we didn't care about him leaving the camp. Yes, he has always had a good alcohol tolerance. He used to sober up after going out for a walk and coming back. Yeah, we didn't expect that he would go deep into the forest alone. Green's eyes moved, and he asked, how did you find him? Was he still alive when you found him? A red-robed Lannister answered, Lord Green, it was our team that found him. We were responsible for the guard patrol of that area in accordance with your orders. Green nodded slightly. You did a good job. Tell me what happened at that time. We rushed over immediately after hearing the noise, but when we arrived, Stephen was dead. The ground was covered with blood. He was almost deformed by the wild boar. Green nodded and turned his gaze to the corpse on the ground again. Green and Stephen had had a few brief encounters. In his impression, Stephen looked really tall and strong. At this point, Green had confirmed that the drunk Stephen was killed by a wild boar. Green shook his head slightly, thinking it was a pity. Stephen was not very old, but he was already a mid-level officer. He should have a good future in the garrison. You must not enter the forest when you are drunk, even if... King Robert's name suddenly flashed through Green's mind. Your Majesty the Queen, Your Majesty the Queen, Your Majesty the Queen. Hearing the movement in the distance, Green stopped thinking. Queen Cersei was walking towards Green under the protection of Jaime. Tisk, these two are out for a picnic again. Everyone saluted, and Green stepped forward to report to Queen Cersei about Stephen's death. Leave the rest of the garrison and let them handle it themselves. Queen Cersei glanced at Green and asked, is Stephen strong? Green's heart moved. I've met him. Stephen is as strong as a bull. Queen Cersei stared at the bloody Stephen, her beautiful eyes brighter than usual, but there was no strange color on her face. Chapter 64 Rose Avenue. King's Landing, Queen's District. In a house near the police station, Green's housekeeper Leighton was talking to a sturdy man. "Captain Rattle, you stay here first. There will be new arrangements after Lord Green returns." After Whispering City received Green's Raven letter, 20 soldiers of the Survey Corps arrived in King's Landing according to the order. Rattle, who looked to be about 30 years old, was the captain of the Survey Corps this time. Rattle nodded and habitually glanced around the surrounding environment. "Leighton, thank you for your welcome. What do we need to do during this period of time?" Leighton approached Rattle and lowered his voice. "Lord Green, you need to get familiar with this place, every house, and every road during this period of time. I'll arrange it later." Leighton shook his head. "We need to prepare first. There are many eyes hidden in the dark in King's Landing. You also need to change clothes. There is still some time. We need to plan well." "I understand." Leighton nodded and asked, "Captain Rattle, have you met my sister Kaylia before departure?" "No, as you know, our Survey Corps has been in the old place. After Sir Pale, who received the troop transfer order, selected the personnel, we were arranged to set off. We did not pass through the Whispering City, but went directly to Mermaid Harbor. After being separated for a while, Leighton missed her sister a little." After a pause, Rattle said, "I also heard that Herschel, the governor of Mermaid Harbor, is very busy. Your sister has helped him share a lot of Whispering City affairs. I think she should be doing well, so you don't have to worry too much." Leighton nodded slightly. "That's good. My mother and I are both in King's Landing. I'm always worried about leaving her alone in the territory." Although Rattle didn't quite understand this kind of feeling, he shrugged his shoulders and expressed his understanding. Southeast of the old land of Kleber, the Thorn Corps camp. In the tent of the Corps commander, Emperor, wearing a short robe, sat at the table and wrote something seriously. At this time, Rena, who had a sky-high braid, entered the tent. "What a damn weather, it's so hot these days. Is it going to rain heavily?" Rena said as she took off her robe and threw it aside. Emperor looked up at the pair of apples and his thick lips moved. Sensing Emperor's gaze, Rena tilted her body slightly, posed, and said with a smile, I know, I'm just too hot, let me cool down for a while, I'll pay attention when there are others around." Emperor's gaze returned to the table. Rena approached the table and looked over, saying in surprise, Emperor." Emperor put down the quill in his hand, and his cheeks flushed. Rena sighed, "It's hard for you, you only wrote these few words in one morning." Emperor pulled the paper to the other side, and said with a little anger, "Don't forget, this is still your idea for me. It's just that it's been too long, and I just can't remember how to write some things." Emperor's words seemed a little lacking in confidence at the end. Rena nodded in agreement. "Yeah, we just learned some words from the nuns when we were very young. I only remember that you were the best at that time, but I forgot that so much time has passed." Rena shook her face and spread her hands. "Now that we are older, we are busy hunting every day. How can we have free time?" "Yes, that's the truth. I have a reason for forgetting how to write." Emperor nodded in agreement. "Oh, what a pity. I saw several new daggers in the Survey Corps. They are the right size for us. The blades are also thicker, so they must be very sturdy." Emperor wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. "There are only a few of them in the entire territory. Night Pale told me that the blacksmiths will make more, so I asked you to write to the Lord quickly. Even the White Walkers don't know whether the next batch of new daggers can fall into the hands of our legion." Rena, "Sir Pale is a fair knight." Rena sighed again. I know, but that doesn't stop you from writing to the Lord. There are wars all the time, and which legion's weapons are not severely damaged? You don't have to guess, everyone has already taken action." As she spoke, Rena put her hand on Emperor's shoulder. "You are so wet." Rena retracted her hand and walked behind Emperor. "I just realized that you have become a wet leopard. Raise your arms and I will help you take off your robe." Emperor hesitated for a moment, but still raised his arm and matched Rena's movements. After helping Emperor take off her robe, she continued, "Where were we talking just now? Anyway, just listen to me, everyone is doing this." Emperor moved and it was indeed much more comfortable. Emperor covered his face with a headache. "This is harder than fighting. Rena, the problem is that I can't write a lot of things, it's not easy to ask others for help with this kind of thing." Emperor made up his mind that he must recruit a sister who knows how to write next time he goes back to Whispering City. Rena crossed her arms, her eyes turned, and suddenly said, "If you meet someone who can't write, you can draw." Emperor blinked. "Draw? Emperor thought Rhaena's idea was terrible. Drawing skills are more advanced skills. With her drawing skills, even the White Walkers probably can't understand what she draws. Seeing Rhaena's excited look because she came up with a good idea, Emperor, who couldn't think of a good way for a while, was a little hesitant. How about giving it a try? The day before the end of the Royal Forest hunt, Green led his clan soldiers and left the Royal Forest camp in a low-key manner. After Green left, James took over the Royal Forest hunt's guard. Green, who set out early in the morning, entered the Rose Avenue near noon. Near the Rose Avenue, Green found Steward Rosal and others waiting to join him. Green found that Steward Rosal was much more energetic than the last time they met. "Good day, my master," Rosal greets you. Green nodded slightly. "Rosal, how is the price, my master?" "The grain price in King's Landing is the easiest to inquire about. After receiving your order, I quickly sorted it out. On the way out of King's Landing, I have been walking and inquiring. My face is too unfamiliar here. They have one price for acquaintances and another price for strangers. I am not sure whether the information I have inquired is credible." "That's enough, that's all I want." Green's purpose was just to get a general understanding of the price fluctuation range between the north and the south. Green pulled the reins and said loudly, "Let's go." Chapter 65, The Little One. The sun was blazing. After meeting up with Steward Rosal and others, Green's team left Rose Avenue again and marched southwest for about 2 hours. Green pulled the reins, stopped the horse, and said, "Is it the village in front?" A Kleber soldier replied, "Yes, sir. The Sleepless Bandits have been stationed in the village in front since a few days ago. The Sleepless Bandits are a bandit gang active near the junction of the King's territory, the Riverlands, and the River Bay. Because they usually kill and rob only at night, some people call them night bandits." Green looked at the village in the distance and asked Ange beside him, "Do you think it's better to attack now?" Ange replied respectfully, "Yes, Sir Green. They came back at dawn, and they are very tired now." The bandits were very alert. Green estimated that if they went a little further, they would be discovered by the bandits on guard. Even night owl bandits would not forget to arrange people to guard during the day. Green paused for a moment and said, "The village has a wide field of vision. It is easy to be discovered if you get closer." Montan and Ange looked at each other. Montan signaled with his eyes, "You go ahead." Ange nodded his chin imperceptibly. He said to Green, "My lord, I won't be discovered by them if I'm alone." Green raised his eyebrows and patted Ange's shoulder. "Then you arrange this raid and let Montan cooperate with you." Ange felt Green's trust in him, and his heart seemed to be filled with gratitude. He nodded heavily. Seeing Ange and Montan leading most of the tribe soldiers away, Green's new squire Martyr was a little restless and looked at Green expectantly. Green noticed Martyr's strong gaze and frowned. "Martyr, don't forget your duties as a squire." Montan and Ange, who were sent out to fight by the Lord, were personal guards. Martyr had some opinions in his heart, but he didn't dare to say it out. Martyr is a descendant of a retainer knight of Kleber. Due to clan rules, he has been detained in the territory to raise children and has never participated in a battle. Martyr has been carefully trained since he was a child, and Green believes that his skills are not bad. As a descendant of a retainer knight, Green will inevitably take more care of him and will not let him go out to fight without putting a layer of iron on him. Now Martyr is a bit like a wild horse that has broken free from his reins, and his heart is too impatient. Green will use his method to calm Martyr's heart first. After Ange and Mont made a plan in a short time, they did not waste any more time and moved towards the direction of the village alone. It may be difficult for ordinary people to avoid sentries in the open and broad daylight, but it is not difficult for Ange, who is a natural archer. There are a total of 40 or 50 bandits, and there are not too many sentries. Ange, who has quietly entered the village, observed for a while and found that there are only 2 sentries in this direction. One is bright and the other is dark, one is under the tree and the other is on the tree, which is also a clever arrangement. Whoosh! Whoosh! Ange shot 2 arrows quickly. Ange's shooting speed was very fast. There seemed to be no interval between the 2 arrows. The arrows pierced the necks of the 2 sentinels almost at the same time. The bodies of the sentinels fell to the ground with a dull sound. Mondan, who was ambushing in the distance, found Ange's waving flag. Mondan pulled down his visor and made a gesture. Mondan stared at the front through the gap in the visor, leading everyone forward at a fast speed. His white and fat body did not affect his agility at all. Everyone looked at the fat buttocks shaking in front of them, and they were actually very impressed. Green led the remaining dozen people to the river not far away. Green asked his squire Martyr to lead the horses to feed water, and he found a shady place to sit down. Because of the royal forest hunting, the nearby bandit groups chose to stay away, and no bandit group dared to stubbornly provoke the team where the queen was. Most of Green's tribesmen have learned to ride horses, but they only know how to ride. To be precise, they are infantrymen who can ride horses. Green was willing to expand the scope of the alert, and also to train the tribe soldiers in outdoor riding skills. As the scope of the alert was expanded, some traces of bandit groups were inevitably found during the patrol. The cautious Green ordered Enge to lead a group of tribe soldiers to continue investigating along the traces. To date, Green has mastered accurate intelligence on several bandit groups. Green occasionally wondered if he had opened the map too early. Green always felt that the trip to Highgarden would not go smoothly. Especially after the messenger from Highgarden suddenly appeared in the royal forest, this feeling became stronger. King Green guessed that it might be because he was too eager for speed and was a little anxious. It happened that there was still information about a bandit group in hand, so Green decided to slow down the pace temporarily, brush the bandit group for a few days, and get some horses while eliminating harm for the people. According to Enge's tracking and inquiries, these bandit groups all have many excellent horses. Highgarden has a rose that is aimed at the Queen's crown. Green went to Highgarden as the chief affairs officer of Queen Cersei. It would be abnormal if everything went smoothly. So, it is normal until now. Just be normal. Green felt that when he thought about it from a different angle, his anxiety suddenly disappeared. Green smiled. Everything is difficult at the beginning. Well, it's also difficult in the middle and at the end. Just get used to it. With a bang, Monten's large figure crashed into it, and the wooden door shattered. The absolute power displayed by Monten made everyone pause for a moment. Enge had to admire that there was a reason why Monten could eat so much meat. The morale of the crowd, which was already high, was raised again. After 0 hours today, this is the third time that it has been banned. Please vote and push it hard. Chapter 66, Shadows Under the Stairs. After breaking through the door, Monten rushed forward without stopping. The bandits who were attacked suffered heavy losses, and more than half of them lost their lives before they could react. The remaining group of thieves had just retreated to this stone house. The bandits who had just closed the door and wanted to discuss the next step while temporarily out of danger were also startled by the noise made by Monten. Is this still a human? The nearest bandit was smashed in the head by Monten in a moment of hesitation. The bandit leader shouted, "Fight!" A bandit gritted his teeth, held the hilt of the sword tightly, and stabbed Monten. Under the cover of the helmet, you can't see a trace of disgust flashing across Monten's silly face. Monten's thick legs flexibly stepped forward, and the round shield in his left hand smashed down. With a bang, the bandit was flattened with his sword, and the whole process was full of primitive power. In the small space of the house, Monten used his physical advantage to deal with the approaching bandits in a short time. At this time, the tribesmen rushed into the house one by one and killed them. As soon as Enge entered the house, he set his sights on the bandit leader who was loudly commanding the bandits but hiding at the back. Enge's lips curled up slightly and he took out an arrow from his quiver. Just as Enge was about to raise his bow, the blood-stained hammer in Monten's hand flew out in a rotation. With a bang, the flying hammer hit the bandit leader's face, making a sound of broken bones. Enge changed his target, and with a whoosh, he shot an arrow, and a bandit fell down. After shooting the arrow, Enge looked at Monten and said helplessly, "Good aim." Because of the mask, Enge couldn't see Monten's expression, but from the amplitude of the trembling of his flesh, he could see that Monten was laughing happily. A simple and honest fat man. The battle was coming to an end. Enge changed his usual calmness, quickly drew his bow and arrow, and shot an arrow. A Kleber soldier holding a battle axe was about to take the head of the last bandit when he heard the sound of an arrow breaking through the air. The bandit covered the arrow on his neck and fell to the ground with blood flowing from his mouth. The axe soldier snorted and stared at Enge with a dangerous look in his eyes. "Please drink." Enge quickly made a gesture of drinking, and the axe soldier nodded slightly and looked away. Monten stretched out his hand to pull up his visor and said naively, "Enge, don't forget my barbecue." Enge didn't want to pay attention to the cunning fat man for the time being. The tall and strong figure of the axe soldier approached, and his voice was rough. "Monten, take me with you next time you knock on the door." Monten looked over and nodded naively. Fighting once every 2 days, Green's soldiers wiped out a total of 4 bandit groups. It was a good harvest. If it were the old Green, he would be secretly happy for a long time. Still very happy, but now Green has been with a wealthy Lannister for a long time. This level of happiness can no longer bring him the same pleasure as before. Green's appetite is also growing. After a day of rest, the Greens, each with a healthy horse, step into the Rose Avenue again, holding the Kleber clan flag high, and headed south. Red Castle, Prime Minister's Tower. Lord John, who was lying back in bed, was about to speak when he felt an itch in his throat and couldn't help coughing violently. After a long pause, Lord John spoke in a hoarse voice, "Petyr, this time. I'm afraid I have to lie down a little longer." Petyr comforted him, "My Lord Duke, you'll get better soon. You have to trust Mr. Pycelle," Lord John whispered. "Yes, Pycelle's medical skills are superb." After a moment of silence, Lord John asked again, "Where's Stannis?" Petyr's face looked a little helpless. After Lord Stannis said goodbye to you, he took his men away from King's Landing. "I think now," Petyr spread his hands and continued, "he should be on the ship returning to Dragonstone." Lord John sighed weakly. "This stubborn stag," Petyr comforted him again. "Everyone knows the character of Lord Stannis. Don't always take his words to heart. You have your difficulties. Others are not the hand of the king. It is normal for them not to understand you or even misunderstand you." Petyr was good at observing details. Although Mr. Pycelle behaved normally, the change that flashed across Mr. Pycelle's face did not escape his eyes. He really underestimated the killing power of Lord Stannis. This time, Lord John's health was not optimistic. Petyr's comfort at this time was absolutely sincere. Lord John could not die yet. This was not in his interest. Petyr's voice was very gentle. "I think you have been used to it for a long time." Petyr's words made Lord John's face seem to be much better. "Petyr, you will come directly to the Prime Minister's Tower from tomorrow." Petyr raised the corners of his lips, touched his chest and nodded to Lord John, and said respectfully, "My lord, I am honored to serve you. Go and rest." Lord John raised his hand slightly, waved it with difficulty, and drooped his eyes weakly. At this time, Petyr, who had left Lord John's bedroom, had just walked down the stairs. There was silence and no one around, and the lights were dim. A white and plump hand suddenly appeared and grabbed Petyr's arm. Petyr's gray-green eyes trembled slightly, but he instantly recognized the owner of the hand. Petyr followed the force and moved over. His hands naturally rested on the waist of the shadow, and he lowered his voice in a hoarse voice, "My Lyssa." The identity of the shadow was Lyssa Tully. Lyssa Tully was from the Tully family in the Riverlands, and was the wife of Jon Arryn, the Duke of the Eyrie and the Hand of the King. Although Lady Lyssa Tully also lowered her voice, she could not hide the joy in her tone. "You always think of me first, my Petyr." The vision gradually became clear after adapting to the darkness. Lady Lyssa Tully had a pair of blue eyes of the Tully family. Lady Lyssa Tully had fluffy reddish-brown long hair. After giving birth to Robert Arryn, the only son of Duke John, she began to gain weight. Lyssa Tully, 31 years old this year, is bloated and flabby. Although her cheeks are powdered, she looks 10 years older than her actual age. At this moment, Petyr only has eyes for Lyssa Tully in front of him, as if he is staring at the treasure he cherishes most in his life. Lady Lyssa Tully loves Petyr's charming eyes the most. She can't get enough of them every time. She is intoxicated all of a sudden. Intoxicated by love, Lady Lyssa Tully has completely forgotten where this place is. Her chubby white hands reach into Petyr's robe. Petyr lowered his gray-green eyes, raised the corners of his lips, and glanced at Lady Lyssa Tully who was lowering her body. Although Petyr suppressed his voice, it was full of love. "Lyssa, don't make too much noise." Chapter 67 Rose Avenue 2. The panting sound intensified, and Lady Lyssa Tully, with a dazed look on her face, lifted her skirt. Petyr Baelish reached out to stop Lady Lyssa Tully's movements. "Lyssa." Petyr's magnetic call seemed to awaken a trace of reason in Lyssa. Petyr curled his lips, with a touching love on his face. "Lyssa, come with me." Hidden deep in Petyr's heart was cold reason. He had different roles in front of different people and played a role that was most beneficial to himself. No matter how impulsive Petyr was, he would not do anything near the stairs of the Prime Minister's Tower. He did not tell Lyssa that this place was not suitable, because he was always reluctant to reject Lyssa's love. Petyr's elegance was still intoxicating. "There is a room over there that can match your beauty a little, my Lady Lyssa." Lyssa's cheeks became redder. In his heart, She would always be Lady Lyssa Tully of Riverrun. He loved her so deeply. We will be together in the end. Lyssa shyly placed her chubby hand gently on Peter's outstretched palm. Peter's eyes trembled slightly. Peter, you haven't come to see me for a few days. Lyssa's tone was full of complaints, but more of shyness. Given Lyssa's current age and appearance, her expression, movements, and tone were very inconsistent at this moment, but Peter's face, which was strong in his heart, still showed the same love. Peter held Lyssa's hand tightly. I am doing this to protect our future. For Lyssa, I can endure it. Lyssa thought of how Peter had been humble and at her husband's side for more than 10 years for her. Lyssa knew very well that Peter never liked this, and he endured it silently for her. Lyssa's heart was filled with love, and she didn't know what she could do for Peter to repay his deep affection. This was the only thing she could do now, and Lyssa lowered her body again. Peter's smile froze a little. After a long while, he flicked his finger. Lyssa glanced down. My little finger is very lively today. Lyssa was speaking in a private lover's words, but when Peter heard little finger from Lyssa's mouth, his smile still froze for a moment. Peter put his arm around Lyssa and took a step forward. My Lyssa, you may not be able to sleep all night. Peter, my night, I like to sleep in a place in the Red Castle. Varys stared at the note in his hand. Under the shadow of the candlelight, Varys, with an expressionless face, gave people a cold feeling. Lord Varys, Lady Arryn and Lord Peter entered the house together. Do you need someone to eavesdrop? Varys put down the note, tapped his chin lightly, and habitually linked his hands together. Men and women are most likely to reveal valuable information when they are in love. Yes, Lord Varys, Varys said again. Have the garrison's investigation results been sent to Genos? It has been sent. Everything is in accordance with your wishes. Everything goes well. Don't be careless and bring this matter to a successful conclusion. In the future, don't arrange anyone where Baron Green is present. Then, yes, sir. Varys stood up from his chair and walked slowly to the window. There is no need to doubt. There are always some strange people in this world. Lord Varys, I'm worried about the future. Varys stared at the darkness outside the window with indifferent eyes. Unless the entire Red Castle is demolished, no one can do it. My little bird is still everywhere. King's Landing, Queen's District. Public Security Station. Foley sat against the wall, looking a little listless. Fury looked at Leighton, who was walking towards him, and said, Leighton, have you distributed the silver deer to them? Leighton stretched and leaned against the wall like Fury. Yeah, they all cooperated with you this time. Although there are no Lannister red robes to help this time, it is easier. Fury laughed loudly. I would be happy to do so too. I wish Her Majesty the Queen would pass by here every day. Leighton smiled and nodded. Her Majesty the Queen has returned to the Red Castle. I don't know when the next time will be, but it's good to have something to look forward to. Leighton asked again, what about you? How is their training? Fury shook his head and said, I can only say that they are quite obedient. Fury, they are not from the Crab Claw Peninsula, and the people they will have to deal with in the future will be different. Fury nodded helplessly. Don't worry, Leighton. I just feel bored, and I miss the Whispering City a little. Leighton shrugged. I miss it too. I haven't hunted for a long time. Here, it's too peaceful. It's not easy to get used to it. Do you think Lord Green will get into trouble in the south? Leighton thought seriously for a while, and said, I can only say that there won't be any big trouble. After all, Lord Green is visiting in the name of Her Majesty the Queen. Fury leaned closer to Leighton and lowered his voice. It's hard to say. Leighton looked at Fury with doubt in his eyes. The trouble is not about others, but Lord Green. River Reach, Rose Avenue. Green and his group walked south along Rose Avenue. As they got closer and closer to Highgarden, they met many patrols from the River Reach. Green frowned slightly. The armor rate of the soldiers in the River Reach attracted Green's attention. A patrol team in the River Reach consists of 12 to 15 cavalrymen. Green has encountered more than a dozen teams, and each cavalryman is wearing full body plate armor. There are many people and they are very rich. This is the first impression that the River Reach gave Green. It was close to noon, and Green and his group slowed down and prepared to find a place to rest. Not long after, Ange, who was exploring the way ahead, drove his horse back to the team. Lord Green, there is a village ahead, and there is a noble lady distributing food to the villagers. Free food? Ange's words immediately attracted Mont and Wishu. Is there a flag? Did you see the noble lady's appearance clearly? I didn't see the flag. I was afraid of causing misunderstanding, so I just looked from a distance. It was a lady with brown hair and green skirt. Green raised his eyebrows and pulled the reins. We are not going into the village. Is there a suitable place to rest ahead, not entering the village? Is your excellency doing this to avoid affecting the villagers' collection of food? Lord Green is always so kind. Ange immediately replied, there is a small path to the right ahead. There is a small river after walking along the path for a while. It is also suitable for rest. Green nodded slightly, waved his hand, and said loudly, let's go. Chapter 68 Rose Avenue 3. After arriving at the river, the first thing everyone did was to boil water. Kleber's soldiers unconsciously picked up some of Green's living habits. For example, drinking boiled water. According to Mondin Wishu, boiled water with meat is delicious. Green's lunch was horse sausage and white bread from the river bay. While chewing the sausage, Green was thinking about the river bay. Seeing the big picture from the small, Green, based on the known intelligence and careful observation along the way, knew that the river bay was too strong. Under the premise that there were no problems within the Rose family, with their resources, if a war started, they could also kill opponents. Green was just making a rational analysis. He was not a person who liked to scare himself. When he finished the last bite of sausage, Green clapped his hands and stood up. Crab Claw Peninsula is not weak either, because I am still here. After a simple rest at noon, Green and his party set foot on the Rose Avenue again and headed towards the direction of High Court. Mondin Wishu, who had the instinct of a beast, found that Green's momentum had changed. Green, who has always been reserved and humble, now feels a little arrogant, a bit like Jaime Lannister when they first met. Green is adapting to the new personality. Green in the Riverlands will behave a little differently from before. He's a rising star of military nobles who defeated 20,000 wildlings with only 1,000 soldiers at a young age and recovered the old land in one fell swoop. Outside, he is a favorite of Queen Cersei. He is proud and arrogant. He doesn't take the so-called famous generals like Randall seriously. He only admires the Duke of Highgarden. Green has admired the military talent of Lord Mace Tyrell the most since he was a child. Only the cutting-edge Green can understand the military command ability of Lord Mace Tyrell, the leader of Highgarden, which is as profound as art. Others don't understand, but Green understands Lord Mace. Green nodded secretly, this is me. The next day, Green saw a carriage parked on the roadside not far away while he was traveling. As the distance got closer, the golden rose emblem on the carriage came into Green's sight. Ange approached Green and said, this is the carriage I saw yesterday. When the brown-haired lady was distributing food to the villagers, this carriage was parked nearby. Green nodded slightly and raised his hand to signal everyone to slow down the horses. Green deliberately avoided a possible meeting yesterday, and now he is sure that this is not a coincidence. Green shook the reins and approached the golden rose carriage parked on the side of the road with the support of the tribe soldiers. Green raised his eyebrows while moving. The wheels of the carriage sank into the mud? Well, don't say more, as long as it is useful. Green had already seen the golden rose emblem of the Tyrell family, so he had no reason to ignore it. There were 4 people standing next to the carriage. Green guessed from their clothes that they were 3 maids and a groom. Ange's eyes moved, and he lowered his voice to Green and said, Lord Green, I found at least 4 guards yesterday, but they are gone now. Green nodded. Green got off the horse first, handed the reins to his squire Martyr, and walked towards the carriage. Green and his group made a lot of noise, and the people beside the carriage had already noticed them and looked in their direction from time to time. Green touched his chest and saluted the carriage. Good day, I am Baron Green Crab, the chief official of Her Majesty the Queen, and I am here to visit the Duke of Highgarden on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen. Seeing Green's salute, everyone made way and nodded to stand aside. There was a slight movement in the carriage, and a maid immediately stepped forward to open the door. A very beautiful girl lifted her skirt and slowly got off the carriage. The girl had soft light brown long curly hair, her figure was beautiful, and her fair skin seemed to glow in the sun. The girl looked at Green with her elk-like gentle and clear brown eyes. Good day, Baron Green Crab, I am Margaery Tyrell of Highgarden. Green in Margaery Tyrell's eyes was stunned for a moment when he looked at her appearance, but he immediately returned to normal. The Tyrell family was born as the steward of the Gardner family, the royal family of the Reach. Although the Tyrell family's wealth is second only to the Lannister family, it is despised by the other major families because of its bloodline and identity. They think that the Tyrell family is a lucky upstart and does not have noble bloodline. Therefore, The Tyrell family regards the improvement of the family's identity and status as the family's mission. One of the effective ways to improve the family's status is marriage. If the Tyrell family has a queen, it can be said that the family's wish has been fulfilled in one step. Margaery Tyrell, the Little Rose of Highgarden, has been carefully cultivated by the Tyrell family according to the standards of a queen since she was born. Under the careful cultivation of the family, the intelligent Margaery Tyrell knows people's hearts and is good at scheming. She knows how to capture men with her beauty, how to win over the common people with charity, and how to gain a good reputation. Margaery Tyrell's voice was very clear. I sent the guard to buy food. I didn't expect the guard to get stuck in the mud as soon as he left the wheel. He got stuck a little deep, which really stumped us. Miss Tyrell, I'm honored to serve you. Leave it to me. Green turned his head to look at his team and said, Monton, come and carry the carriage out. Hearing this, Mont nodded naively and strode towards the carriage. Green stepped back and gestured with his hand, saying, Miss Tyrell, please step back a few steps. Margaery Tyrell glanced at Green, nodded slightly, and left the carriage with Green. Monton tilted his big head and looked at the carriage wheel stuck in the mud. After looking at it, Monton knew what was going on. He walked directly to the back of the carriage, bent down slightly and placed his hands on the bottom of the carriage. Monton, with a silly look on his face, suddenly roared, and the sound he made was like the roar of a beast. The groom hurriedly pulled the reins tightly and calmed the horse's restlessness. Margaery Tyrell's maids cried out in surprise. Margaery Tyrell was just startled and couldn't help covering her mouth, but her heart was so frightened that she almost cried out. Monton burst out with amazing strength, and the wheels of the carriage left the ground directly. With a thud, the carriage made a dull sound. Monton, who had completed the task, looked at Green in a naive way. Seeing Green nod, Monton returned to the team. Margaery Tyrell praised, My Lord Baron, your guard is really powerful and is a natural warrior. Green said nonchalantly, Miss Tyrell, thank you for your praise. He is just a rookie and needs to grow. Margaery Tyrell blinked her elk-like eyes. Baron Green, thank you for your help. You can call me Margaery. The second update is here. Please support me with your votes. I don't have any drafts saved. It would be easy if I had. I have been adjusting my time recently. I will try to decide the update amount and time as soon as possible. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Rose Avenue, End. After solving the carriage problem, Margaery's carriage naturally went with Green and his group. The first impression Green Crab gave Margaery was very different from the image she had previously imagined in her mind. Although he was a noble from the Crab Claw Peninsula, he was more like a southern knight. Green's behavior always kept a proper distance from her, a distance that made her comfortable. This was rare. Margaery, who had experienced it herself, knew very well that this was a social etiquette that was difficult to learn well, and it required a very delicate mind and talent. Margaery thought that Green had some extraordinary qualities to become Queen Cersei's favorite. Another thing was that Margaery noticed that Green's guards were very quiet. Margaery had naturally seen the elite of the River Reach, and they also followed orders and remained silent before orders were given. But it was different. Margaery felt that the guards led by Green were a little abnormally quiet. Margaery had no interest in military affairs, and the thought only passed through her mind, and she didn't take it to heart. They were silent all the way. When it was almost noon, they found a flat riverside to rest. Invite Miss Margaery Tyrell to have lunch by the river? Green and Margaery just met by chance on the road and were still strangers. There is an essential difference between strangers and familiarity. In addition, there was a huge difference in status between the two of them, and Green's excessive courtesy was rash. Of course, for Green, all of the above would not be a big problem if he was willing to put in effort. The key point is that although Margaery is the daughter of the Duke of Metz, Green's heart can only accommodate an inflatable fish duke. After a simple lunch, the considerate Green deliberately walked to the river alone to enjoy the scenery. The stream was clear and you could see the bottom, like a beautiful blue silk. Sure enough, Green did not wait long. Margaery, holding her skirt with both hands, walked slowly towards Green. At the right distance, Green had a hint of surprise on his face and nodded politely to Margaery. Margaery met Green's gaze, her deer-like eyes smiling. At that moment, Green's heartbeat seemed to skip a beat. If only he could be with. Green suppressed his sudden emotion. For Green now, extravagant love will only affect the speed at which he draws his sword. Margaret nodded her chin lightly, and her eyes also looked at the calm river surface. Coincidentally, a kingfisher nimbly crossed the water surface, leaving circles of halos. Margaret's brown eyes had a hint of light. Baron Green, do you like the river bay? Green's eyes moved, and he said, the river bay is warm, beautiful and rich. As one of the owners of the river bay, Margaret smiled and said, thank you for your compliment. Green smiled lightly and nodded slightly. After a pause, Margaery said, I also learned by accident that Queen Cersei sent the chief officer to visit my father. Margaery turned her little face to look at Green. Actually, Baron Green, I am a little surprised and surprised. If possible, can you satisfy my curiosity? Margaery's beautiful eyes are clear and warm, making it difficult to refuse. Green fell into silence for a moment, and then immediately resumed his normal behavior. He is also a man with a relatively firm mind. Margaery kept a gentle smile on her little face. Most of the women in power in Westeros will use their beauty as their weapon. They are also more willing to believe in people who can't resist their beauty. Because of their firmness and maturity in mind, Green has a strong resistance to the lethality of beauty. Not only for trust, but also out of basic courtesy, Green has to show his support. Under the training of Queen Cersei, Green's acting skills have been improving and becoming more and more comfortable. Green sighed secretly. In fact, it is not easy for him. Green's brown eyes moved slightly, and he coughed dryly and replied, Miss Margaery, although this matter needs to be kept secret now, it is no longer a secret after meeting the Duke of Mace. The Duke of Mace is also your father, so I think it is not a big problem to tell you directly in advance. Because of Green's words, Margaery's bright brown eyes seemed to have an extra layer of pleasure of sharing a secret. Green lowered his voice a little. King Robert, who is good at fighting, has always been worried about the safety of the kingdom, and has to focus his main energy on busy military affairs. A person's energy is limited. King Robert has been forced to neglect the contact with the major families. For the sake of the kingdom, the kind Queen Cersei wants to take on these kingdom affairs for His Majesty the King. Starting this year, envoys will be sent to visit the major families one after another to deepen the friendship between the royal family and the major families. Margaery is an excellent listener. Seeing Green lower his voice, she also made a listening gesture. Can King Robert's great achievement still be described in this way? When Green finished speaking, Margaery blinked her beautiful eyes, as if digesting what she had just heard. Green added, I recommended myself to Her Majesty the Queen for this mission. I heard that the swordsmen of the River Bay are superb swordsmen, and I have always wanted to have a chance to see them. Green even told Margaery about his personal purpose. Did we all guess wrong? But grandmother. Margaery didn't have time to think about it, and first thanked Green for his honesty. Then, the two of them tacitly changed the topic. Margaery took the initiative to find a topic and introduced Green to some of the customs of the River Bay. Green was thinking, the daughter of the Duke of Mace took the initiative to find a topic to chat with him for a while. Is it Margaery's reward for Green's honesty? Sometimes, the truth is not important, it's just for their own purposes. No one can guarantee that there will be a similar meeting next time. With a little more patience, the next meeting will still be pleasant. As one of the top nobles in Westeros, Margaery Tyrell doesn't have to be so delicate. On the other hand, Queen Cersei has always gone her own way, and few people are particularly dissatisfied. The nobles of Westeros have long been accustomed to the distinction between high and low bloodlines, and recognize each other. However, compared with Queen Cersei's domineering side, Margaery Tyrell's affinity is more likely to win people's hearts. Not long after Green and Margaery set out in the afternoon, they ran into the guards sent by Margaery to buy food. Green and Margaery parted ways. Green led his clan's soldiers and continued to march towards Highgarden. Green, who was riding on a horse, pinched his chin, hoping that today's behavior would reduce some obstacles for his next trip to Highgarden. Sorry, the update is late today, and I will continue to update tomorrow. Chapter 70 Illegitimate Children? King's Landing at night, the Stinky Fish Tavern near the Blackwater River Wharf. It's true, my grandfather saw a mermaid. The person who spoke was a bald middle-aged man, his eyes were hazy and his face was flushed. The drunkard's voice was very high, and everyone laughed as soon as he finished speaking. Ha ha ha, listen to what this drunkard is talking about, ha ha, Only the White Walkers would believe the nonsense of a drunkard. Others call him Jack the Drunkard. I heard that his family even had a sea ship. Forget it. Where did you hear that from? Don't believe any of the nonsense you hear here. Haha, not necessarily. Drunkards occasionally tell the truth. A man with a pointed face and skinny body suddenly shouted, I believe him. Everyone was stunned at first, and then there was another burst of laughter. Haha, isn't this smart Dick? Ha ha ha, smart. SHH, has he made a fortune? Dick used to wear rags, look at him now. Several people tilted their heads and looked at him at the same time. Maybe her sister met a generous man. What do you mean? The person who spoke lowered his voice and said, I heard that his sister is a branch girl of the Château branch. Several people sitting around the table couldn't help but whisper. That's the best branch girl in King's Landing, is it because, SHH, come over here, the brothers and sisters are of noble birth. Noble, don't talk nonsense. Do you want to hang your head on the city gate? I'm telling the truth, it was clever Dick who said it himself. He was very drunk that time, and I was at the table next to him at the time, everyone exclaimed. Why don't you think he looks like a noble lord? SHH, keep your voice down, Alice. I was also very drunk at the time, and I heard it in a daze. I only remember that it was some golden flower from the Crab Claw Peninsula. Tisk, isn't it another illegitimate child of a noble lord? Outside the Stinky Fish Tavern, Jaime Lannister, who was dressed in a low-key manner, threw a silver deer at a black shadow. The shadow skillfully caught the silver deer. Dear stranger, I am at your service at any time. Jaime Lannister frowned and said nothing, just waved his hand and took a step. The place was filled with stench, and Jaime's patience had reached its limit. Jaime appeared here to track down the rumor-mongers in the Queen's district. After returning to King's Landing, in order to hide it from Cersei, Jaime did not use Lannister's intelligence forces in King's Landing, and chose to investigate secretly alone. Although he was alone, Jaime collected a lot of useful information in the investigation through his money ability. As the investigation deepened, Jaime had a lot of doubts in his heart. Most of the sources of information pointed to the Riverlands. Is the mastermind behind the scenes the Tully family in the Riverlands? Jaime shook his head and instinctively felt that something was wrong. Jaime knew that he didn't like or was not good at dealing with these things, and he thought of Green in his mind. Jaime knew that Tyrion was smart and trusted Tyrion more, but he felt that Green had a more sensitive nose in this regard. Jaime hesitated in his heart. He missed Green a little. Red Keep, Meagher's Tower. On the bed, Cersei, who was in a light sleep, met an unexpected person in her dream. The hazy and warm yellow dream scene made Cersei move her fingers in a half-awake and half-asleep state. After a soft moan, her chest rose and fell. After a long time, Cersei's eyelids moved, and slowly opened her beautiful eyes. The green eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of moisture. Queen Cersei left the bed and put on a robe. After taking a sip to relieve her thirst, Queen Cersei walked to the window holding a wineglass. Since returning from the hunting of the royal forest, Queen Cersei found that Jaime often went out of the Red Keep at night. Man. Looking at the dark night sky, Queen Cersei raised her chin slightly. At the intersection of the Rose Avenue and the Coastal Avenue, the Highgarden Castle built of white marble is located on a hill, overlooking the Blue Mander River below. Highgarden Castle has 3 circular walls built of white stones. The area around Highgarden is covered with golden roses for several miles. Green, with Monton, Ange and Martyr, entered Highgarden Castle under the guidance of the servants. The castle is like a green paradise, with golden roses blooming everywhere, and the garden, pool and artificial waterfall dot the entire castle. The castle is full of stone carvings, fountains and marble columns, grapes and roses decorate the walls and sculptures, and the ancient Highgarden Castle is covered with vines. Green sighed in his heart that Highgarden is indeed the most beautiful castle in Westeros. Willis Tyrell, the eldest son and heir of the Duke of Mace, received Green Crab who came from afar. Willis Tyrell, sitting in a wheelchair, smiled and said in a very gentle tone, "Welcome, Baron Green Crab." Willis Tyrell gave people the feeling of being well-educated, gentle and polite. But what Green saw from Willis Tyrell was that he used his humility and courtesy to build an invisible wall around him, a wall called isolation. Green touched his chest and saluted. "Good day, Lord Willis Tyrell, it's an honor to meet you." Green chatted with Willis Tyrell for a few words and got the information he wanted to know. The Duke of Mace, whom Green had been thinking about day and night, happened to be busy with many things and had no time to meet Green in the short term. Green raised his eyebrows. What kind of trick is this? I have to take care of my family. Give me a few more days to adjust. It will be done soon. My goal is to update 3 times. Wait for me. Chapter 71, Words Spoken Out. Green tapped the armrest with his slender fingers several times. Willis Tyrell, who kept a gentle expression, also noticed the sharpness in Green's eyes. Willis Tyrell's smile only deepened a little, and he didn't take it to heart, or for him, such things didn't need to be cared about. Green's mind was racing, analyzing the situation. Little Rose Margaery didn't believe Green's sincere words. Green also guessed, could it be that the Duke of Inflatable Fish had been tacitly excluded from important decisions by the Tyrell family? Although Green represented Queen Cersei, the Tyrell family was confident, and Willis Tyrell, the heir of Highgarden, received the Queen's envoy on behalf of the Duke of Mace. The Tyrell family could only be said to be barely acceptable in terms of etiquette, but for them, this was enough. Was this the Tyrell family preventing Renly Baratheon's plan from being interfered with? The great Duke of Inflatable Fish, did he know that he had been isolated in disguise by the Tyrell family? Thinking of this, Green was a little angry. Green couldn't bear to see this, and he had the idea of actively helping the Duke of Inflatable Fish to clean up the court. Green also thought that the Duke of Mace himself might also be a participant. This idea was quickly rejected by Green. No matter what the truth was, for Green, the Duke of Mace could only be deceived by others. Sir Willis, I will wait for a few days in the camp outside the castle. Hearing Green's words, Willis Tilly paused, looked at Green and nodded. Green stopped talking to Willis, nodded and said goodbye, threw his blue cloak embroidered with swamp marigolds, and turned around and left. After Green's figure disappeared, Willis closed his eyes and smiled. After leaving Highgarden Castle and returning to the camp, Green pulled the reins to stop the horse. Green looked up at the layers of Highgarden Castle that looked like a cake, and suddenly said, Monton, how many people do you need to occupy? Then, Green pointed at Highgarden Castle and continued, your lord has taken a fancy to this place. Monton Wishu stared at the white castle in the distance with a dazed look in his eyes, and replied, Lord Green, we don't have enough manpower. Green's lips curved, and his brown eyes moved to Monton. What do you want to do? Monton glanced at Ange beside him, and said in a simple voice, they are not prepared for us. It is easy for us to kill our way in, and it is not difficult to occupy. I am worried that we don't have enough manpower and may not be able to defend it later, and it will be unsafe for you to live there. When Monton's voice fell, Ange also added, Lord Green, there are many soldiers nearby, and they can easily gather thousands of people. Green smiled and said, then we won't occupy it. Monton and Ange nodded blankly. Green said again, if they want to keep us, can we fight our way out? Just fight our way out? Monton and Ange nodded at the same time. Our fighting power is unparalleled. Green patted Monton and Ange, and said, take good care of the horses. If we really want to fight our way out, we can't get out on our own. Green's next move will be a bit loud. He is just taking precautions to let Monton and the others be prepared. Will Green follow the script arranged by the Tyrell family? Green was anxiously waiting for the Duke of Mace to meet him. Seeing that no one came, would he go to Highgarden Castle and ask Willis Tyrell again? Will Willis persuade Green to go back with impeccable etiquette and excuses? Will Green continue to wait until he has no choice but to leave Highgarden? In addition, if Cersei knew that Green was sent away by the Tyrell family, according to her character, Green still needs Queen Cersei's favor now. When Green and Willis said goodbye, they already had a plan in mind. No one can stop Green from meeting the Duke of Mace. No one could stop the destined meeting between the two of them. The Reach, Horn Hill. The sun was blazing, but there was a cool shade under the forest. The obese Samuel Tarly was reading under a tree, wiping the sweat from his face from time to time. The 10-year-old Dickon Tarly came running over excitedly. Brother, have you heard? The first swordsman of the king's territory has come to Highgarden. A few days ago, Samuel sang to his brother Dickon to sleep at his brother's request, but was discovered by his father Randall Tarly, who happened to pass by. Samuel was ruthlessly interrupted and severely reprimanded by his father Randall, saying that Samuel wanted to use his singing to make his brother Dickon as weak as him. After this incident, Dickon Tarly always deliberately avoided him, which made Samuel very disappointed. If he had refused to sing at that time, he would not be like this now. Today, seeing his brother come to find him actively, Samuel was very happy. Samuel Tarly put down the book and said with a smile, Dickon, I have never been well informed. You just mentioned the first swordsman in the king's territory? Do you know which lord it is? Samwell Tarly was thinking. Is it a lord from the king's court who has come? Could it be the fearless Sir Barristan Selmy? Brother, you know him. I remember studying his record a lot some time ago. Samwell scratched his head and said, Baron Green Crab of Crab Claw Peninsula. Dickon Tarly approached Samwell and nodded with sparkling eyes. Samwell was puzzled and admired. Is Baron Crab already the first swordsman in the king's territory? Although he was thinking about something in his mind, Samwell also noticed his brother Dickon's actions. His brother's eyes lit up and his little hand grabbed his sleeve. He was asking him for help. Samwell loved his brother very much and would try his best to meet any request. Samwell's heart trembled. Seeing his brother's appearance, this matter was not a small matter. Samwell, who couldn't bear to reject his brother, prayed madly to the gods, hoping that it would not be something that would cause his father's anger. Brother, can you take me to see it? Samwell found that his back began to sweat. Dickon, where should I take you? Highgarden, brother. I heard several knights talking about this matter. Today is the second day. I am worried that I will miss it if I go too late. Samwell wanted to pick up the book, and then coldly rejected his brother Dickon. Samwell believed that if he took his brother to Highgarden and something happened, his father would not forgive him. Samwell thought well in his heart, but when he saw his brother's eager eyes, the words he uttered changed. Okay, take you. After saying that, Samwell felt that he was finished. Chapter 72, Green's Attack. Samwell thought about how to make amends. Although he felt sorry for his brother, he wanted to make a bigger noise. Before leaving the castle, he wanted to find a way to let his father Randall discover their whereabouts. In comparison, if he really took his brother out and was caught, maybe his crime could be reduced. Samwell, who was too fat, was dragged by Dickon for a while before he began to gasp for breath. Dickon, don't be anxious. Baron Crab should have just arrived and won't leave so soon. We still have time. Huh? Although Dickon was very anxious, he slowed down his pace after turning back and finding his brother Samwell's condition. Brother, that's a challenge in the ring. Baron Green is challenging all the swordsmen of the River Bay alone. If we go too late and he has been defeated, we will have made a wasted trip. I don't want to miss any of their competitions. Baron Green challenged the entire River Bay swordsmen alone? Samwell felt that Baron Green's courage was extraordinary. And Sister Tara, she will go with us. She is already in the carriage, waiting for us. Before Samwell digested Dickon's first news, he was frightened by another piece of news. Sister Tara Tully is going with us. The worst has not yet come, the worst has just begun. Samwell felt that he was dead this time. Before leaving, Samwell wanted to see his mother for the last time. He would not stutter, nor would he be shy. He would stand up straight and boldly tell his mother that he loved her very much. Samwell still wanted to save himself, and hurriedly said, Father. Before leaving, I will go and talk to my father first. Brother dared to see his father? Because of him, his brother was scolded by his father. Dickon has been feeling guilty these days and dared not talk to Samwell. In the past, after being scolded by his father, Samwell would hide carefully for at least a month to avoid running into his father. Brother has become brave? Dickon was very happy for Samwell's change. Brother, have you forgotten? It's hunting season now. Father has taken the hunters into the forest and won't be back soon. Samwell was pulled into the carriage by his brother. He came back to his senses after seeing his sister Tara. Samwell felt that his sister, who inherited her mother's beauty, had become more beautiful after not seeing each other for a few months. He wanted to praise his sister Tara's beauty like a knight in a book, but he moved his lips but never said it. Tara Tarly noticed the glances from her brother Samwell from time to time. Tara Tarly, who was kind and enthusiastic, always didn't know how to communicate with her uneasy brother. Dickon's excited voice broke the brief solidification in the carriage. I heard that Baron Green offered a bounty of 2,000 gold dragons. As long as you defeat him, you can take all the gold dragons, Tara Tarly exclaimed in cooperation. Samwell's mind was filled with Randall's stern expression. He didn't hear what his brother Dickon said specifically. He just forced a smile when he saw his sister and brother were happy. When Samwell finally regained his composure, he discovered the guards following the carriage. It couldn't be me. Who arranged this? On a balcony of Hornhill Keep, Lady Melissa Florent, wife of Randall Tarly, rested her hands on the crossbar and smiled with relief at the carriage leaving. Outside Highgarden Castle. On the day Green left Highgarden Castle, he built a simple wooden arena outside his camp. The business in the Riverlands was developed, and Steward Roselle quickly purchased the materials. Before sunset that day, according to Green's request, he hired craftsmen to build the arena. After working until late at night, at dawn the next day, Green arranged for people to hang several written slogans on the arena. Baron Green Crab, the Queen's chief affairs officer, the first swordsman in the King's territory, challenges the swordsman in the river Bend. Win me, 2,000 gold dragons are yours. The first day of the challenge in the ring. Although the ring was built in a simple manner, Green made a very large slogan to attract attention. After Green saw that there were quite a few people gathered near the ring, he asked someone to bring up the wooden box containing the golden dragon. After the wooden box was placed, Steward Roselle opened the lid, and the golden dragon shone brightly under the sunlight. While attracting the attention of the crowd, Steward Roselle read out the rules of the competition loudly. The rules of the competition are similar to those of ordinary swordsman sword competitions. The most important thing is that the challenger needs to hand in 10 golden dragons to be eligible to challenge. The winner takes away 2,000 golden dragons on the spot, and the loser keeps 10 golden dragons. The shills that Green arranged just in case were not used, so he welcomed the first challenger. Green discovered that the family emblem of the first challenger was a dazzling red and gold fox. This is a swordsman from the Florent family. Green deliberately held back his strength and fought back and forth with the Florent family swordsman for a while. After more than a dozen rounds, apart from being brave, the Florent family swordsman's swordsman skills were really sparse, and Green felt that it would be too fake to continue acting. Green found a flaw and knocked the challenger's sword away with his long sword. There was no trace of arrogance on Green's face. He was very considerate and made excuses for the Florent family swordsman, comforting him. In fact, we are equal in swordsmanship. I just have a little advantage in arm strength. Green's tone was very gentle, and the Florent family swordsman had to admit that he was comforted. Moreover, in the contest with Green just now, he actually fought very happily. The Florent family swordsman felt that he might not have performed well today. Although he was unwilling, he did not feel much loss at the moment. He would go back and adjust his condition today, and maybe he could try to challenge again tomorrow. After exchanging a few words with Green about swordsmanship, the Florent family swordsman left the ring in a good mood. Green consoled the second challenger. Actually, we are equally matched in sword skills. I just have a slight advantage in speed. Green consoled the third challenger. Actually, we are equally matched in sword skills. I just have a slight advantage in height. Green consoled the eighth challenger. Actually, we are equally matched in arm strength. I just have a slight advantage in sword skills. Green consoled the ninth challenger. Actually, we are equally matched in speed. I just have a slight advantage in sword skills. The second day of the ring challenge. A new slogan was added to the ring. The swordsmen of the River Bend are too weak. After this slogan was hung up, it instantly ignited the crowd around. Today, Green, who had changed his easygoing image the day before, sat high on the wooden platform. Green, leaning on the back of the chair with his legs crossed, raised his chin and looked at the boiling crowd indifferently, as if he was insolent. A new slogan was added to the ring at the right time. Is there anyone else who dares to challenge? The second update is here. Please vote and support. Chapter 73 Big Shot. Buzz. When the last slogan on the ring was hung up, the air seemed to stagnate for a while. Sitting on a high place, Green, with an indifferent expression, looked at the even more noisy crowd, but sighed that there were many people who could read here. If it were the Crab Claw Peninsula, most people would not understand. The various interpreters and other agents that Green secretly arranged were all useless and became the Atmosphere Group. Green secretly thought it was a pity. If there was not enough time, he could have opened an off-site market. The first challenger of the second day walked onto the ring amid the noise. Green saw the family emblem of a group of golden cranes on a pure blue background. Green raised his eyebrows slightly. The Clean family? The Clean family is one of the families in the river Rich that is directly loyal to the Tyrell family. Green remembered that Ringly Baratheon established the Rainbow Guard as queen, and a member of the Clean family served as the Purple Guard. Green held the long sword in his hand at his side with one hand. Let's start, Mr. Swordsman from the Klein family. The Klein family swordsman said nothing and swung his sword diagonally at Green. Clang. Green drew his sword to block, and the swords in their hands made a harsh sound of steel friction during the wrestling. It seems that because they are competing in sword skills, Green, who looks serious on the surface, is picking faults in his heart. Another hot-blooded young man with sparse sword skills. Yesterday, Green usually ended the battle after more than 10 rounds for the sake of viewing effect. Today, since Green has already started the first stage of taunting the River Reach, he can appropriately reduce the number of rounds. After about 8 or 9 rounds, Green's sword swing suddenly increased in strength. The Klein family swordsman, who had just gotten used to Green's sword swinging force, was shocked by this sudden force, and his arm was numb, and he almost lost his grip on the hilt of the sword. Before the Klein family swordsman could recover, Green's long sword chopped down again quickly. The Klein family swordsman had no choice but to bite the bullet and raise his sword to block. With a clang, the sword in his hand fell, and Green's long sword was already against the neck of the Klein family swordsman. Green retracted his sword, just glanced coldly at the Klein family swordsman who was sitting on the ring, and turned away. There was no warm comfort from Green today. The Klein family swordsman came to his senses, picked up the long sword, and left the ring with frustration. Next, the second challenger ended the battle in 7 or 8 rounds. The third challenger ended the battle in 6 or 7 rounds. After that, Green controlled the number of rounds to 6 or 7 rounds. At dusk, the red sun slowly drilled into the thin clouds. Standing in the center of the ring, Green seemed to be stained with a layer of red and gold, a color belonging to the strong. The crowd around the ring opened their mouths wide, all with stunned expressions. The ring fell into a strange silence. With a thud, Green used only one swift blow to knock the swordsman, who they had high hopes for, off the ring in a mess. This swordsman's swordsmanship was well known in the River Bend. They were thinking that although the previous challengers had all lost, they could still fight back and forth. Could this person, who was so famous, be so weak? A kind of resentment of being deceived was brewing in the crowd. Taking advantage of this strange silence, Green said coldly, "Continue tomorrow." After the voice fell, Green sighed slightly, shook his head, and left the ring surrounded by the blue robes of Crab. King's Landing, the Sataya women's branch at the foot of the Reni's Hill. The 2-story Sataya store has a round tower. Many of the windows of the Sataya store are inlaid with lead, and a gorgeous gilded lantern decorated with crimson glass hangs on the door. Clever Dick took advantage of the light before it got dark to go to the Sataya store and called his sister out. Dick's sister, who had been expressionless, spotted Dick from afar. At first, a very stiff smile appeared on Dick's sister's face, but as she got closer to Dick, her smile gradually became natural. Dick's sister's voice was filled with joy. "Dick, are you here to see me?" Although Dick had changed into new clothes, he still smelled bad. Dick's sister just frowned slightly, and on the surface, she didn't seem to mind at all, and she even held Dick's arm very affectionately. "The captain of the Gold Robes you introduced me to asked me to report to the garrison tomorrow. Don't worry, I've already made arrangements." Dick's eyes dodged. "You said, should I add my last name tomorrow?" Dick's sister pulled away, paused, and then took Dick's arm again, her hands shaking. "Brother, what do you want to do?" "I want to write Dick Crab tomorrow, so that the Gold Robes won't look down on me as a newcomer. I've tried it with the captain of the Gold Robes, and no one should care about this. After all, this last name is very unfamiliar. As long as I'm careful." Dick's voice gradually became smaller as he spoke. Dick found that his sister was shaking a little bit. Crab. Dick's sister thought she had completely forgotten this last name. No, she had recently heard this last name from a guest. "Sister? What's wrong with you? Are you feeling uncomfortable?" Dick's sister came back to her senses after being lost in thought. "Dick, has your brain been eaten by the White Walkers? How dare you? You will be hanged, if I'm careful." "Don't cry, I get it. I just want to get out of here quickly and take you away from here earlier." "Woo, I'm doing well." Dick shrank his neck and glanced around carefully. Seeing that no one was paying attention here, he breathed a sigh of relief. "Sister, don't worry, I promise I won't mess around. Please, believe me this time." Dick's sister wiped her tears and said, "Brother, I just don't want you to die." And Dick's sister quietly looked around and lowered her voice and said, "Maybe you will have a better place." Dick was not good at hiding the expression on his face. His eyes were full of suspicion. "You don't want to tell me that you have hooked up with some big shot so soon?" Dick felt that his sister's appearance was only slightly better than ordinary, and it was impossible for her business to suddenly get better. Dick's sister looked at her brother's pointed face and felt her fist harden a little. She took a deep breath and continued, "My good sister, she hooked up with—" Dick's sister whispered in her brother's ear, "A Lannister, the little devil of Lannister, Lannister." For Dick, The captain of the Gold Cloak introduced by his sister was already a big shot. Lannister. The Lannister who was gold when he pulled him down? A friend of Lord Lannister, with the surname Crab, should still be in King's Landing. The words she heard during the casual chat, and never took to heart, were all remembered by her because of Dick's stimulation. The next day, the sky was slightly bright. Another slogan was added to the ring. The swordsman of the Reach is not a man sorry, only one update today, I'll go to bed early, and continue tomorrow. Chapter 74, Kleber's Victory Dance. The red sun rises slowly on the challenge stage. Compared to yesterday, no matter what their specific mood is, more people gather around the ring. Today's opening has changed greatly. More than 30 warriors in full plate armor stood on the ring first, forming a triangular formation. Standing alone at the front of the formation is a fat man like a meatball. Roar! 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 The ring suddenly erupted with war roars. The more than 30 plate-armored warriors on the ring seemed to burst out with a momentum that was not inferior to a 1,000-man army. The noisy crowd was suddenly frozen in place, as if they saw a dangerous battlefield with blood and flesh flying everywhere. Attracted by their movements, the surrounding crowd instantly lost their voices. The music sounded, and the common instruments in the river bend combined to create a song that was very unfamiliar to the people of the river bend. Although the song was unfamiliar, the rhythm was very exciting. The plate-armored warriors on the ring followed the rhythm, making a sound of metal collision, and their movements full of the beauty of power were uniform. Especially the fat man standing in the front, his movements felt the most powerful and agile. This flexible fat man was Montan Wishu, who won the C position with his strength. The people dancing in full armor on the ring were the soldiers of Kleber. The Kleber soldiers danced the group dance that became popular in the Kleber territory not long ago, called the Crab Claw Peninsula Victory Dance, also known as the Kleber Victory Dance. This group dance was slightly improved by Green with reference to the Axe Gang Victory Dance in his previous life, and promoted in the territory in the name of the retainer Nightper. The Kleber territory, which lacked entertainment and had simple folk customs, quickly accepted this group dance full of fighting spirit. Green thought that Nightper would get a title like Dancing Knight, but the result was just the opposite. Because of the name of the dance, Nightper won the title of Victory Knight. After learning about this privately, Green paused for a while, and then patted Nightper with a grateful face. At the end of the group dance, the soldiers of Kleber's tribe roared and raised their weapons in unison, pointing them to the sky. Their amazing momentum seemed to break through the sky. Wow! Oh! The people of the river bend temporarily forgot the contradictions on the ring and cheered for the wonderful performance of the Kleber soldiers. With the explanation of the narrator, they soon learned the name of the group dance, Kleber's Victory Dance. The favorability of the people of the river bend increased by 1. Green nodded slightly with satisfaction. He should do things in a relaxed and tense manner, which is conducive to his extreme pull. Green stood on the ring and rested his sword with one hand. Today, Green's face has a touch of gentleness, and time seems to have returned to the first day of the challenge. Each game will not exceed 5 rounds. Soon, the first challenger of the third day walked onto the ring. Clang! 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 The collision of swords made a series of rings. The challenger couldn't even use his sword to attack, and could only passively block. Green chopped with sword after sword. The force of each chop was stronger than the last one. With a clang, the sword in the challenger's hand fell down. The challenger stared at the long sword that fell to the ground, his face gray. He was so ruthless. The crowd around him briefly stood up for the challenger who was defeated in 3 swords. But this emotion was very short-lived. They were more concerned about the next challenger. They would not always sympathize with a loser. What they were looking forward to was the challenge victory of the swordsman of the River Bay. Samwell Tarly and his sister rushed to Highgarden last night. With the help of the guards, they occupied a very good position with a good view early this morning. The younger brother Dickon Tarly waved his little fist excitedly. Oh, what a powerful sword skill. The kind sister Tara Tarly was more concerned about the challengers who were defeated and looked depressed, and secretly prayed that they could cheer up soon. Samwell Tarly's mind was all about the fat man who led the dance before. They were similar in size, but why was the fat man so agile? His white and fat body and weight did not seem to hinder his flexibility at all. The excited younger brother Dickon asked Samwell, "Brother, can I invite Baron Green to lunch?" Samwell wanted to answer that it should be okay. Because Samwell knew that their father, Randall Tarly, was known as the first general in Westeros and had a great reputation. Baron Green was also a military noble, and he was very likely willing to make friends with the descendants of Randyll Tarly. Samwell's lips moved, but he didn't know how to speak. The current situation was that Baron Green was challenging the swordsman of the River Bay. At this time, he took his younger brother to make friends with Baron Green. He was worried that it would cause public outrage for the Tarly family and cause big trouble for his father. Brother, seeing that Samwell was silent for a while, his younger brother Dickon couldn't help but urge him again. Samwell finally made a decision in his heart. His younger brother was still young, and everyone knew that his father didn't like him. Although he was the eldest son, he couldn't represent his father and the Tarly family. For his younger brother, he was willing to take a risk. Samwell, who was worried, had written the last letter to his mother last night just in case. Samwell mustered up his few courage for his brother. Samwell showed his big white teeth. Dickon, let's watch first and find an opportunity later. When his brother Dickon saw that Samwell agreed to his request, he couldn't help cheering. Seeing all this, his sister Tara Tally had a smile on her face. Samwell wiped the sweat with the back of his hand and met Tara's eyes. Samwell and Tara looked away almost at the same time. His sister hadn't smiled at him for a long time. Although Samwell didn't know why, his suddenly better mood suppressed a lot of fear in his heart. King's Landing, garrison. Dick, who was as thin as a stick, still didn't look more heroic even though he changed into golden robe uniform. Dick, who was hiding in a place, had a dazed look in his eyes. Judging from his trembling body, he seemed to be in some kind of fear. He had made a good agreement with his sister yesterday, but today when he reported his name to the garrison, he seemed to be controlled by a White Walker and used the last name Crab. He didn't even remember what he said afterwards, but everyone present at the time already knew it. His name is Dick Crab, and he is of noble birth. Dick Crab was assigned to a relatively safe area and had a few subordinates. He was already a small leader when he first arrived. Dick finally came back to his senses, his Adam's apple rolled and he swallowed his saliva. He must seize the opportunity and hold on to the position he had worked so hard to get. Dick Crab decided to keep this matter a secret from his sister for the time being. He will be careful, and if he is careful there shouldn't be any problem. He believes he can handle it because everyone calls him Clever Dick. The second update will be a little later, I estimate it will be around 12 o'clock. Chapter 75 An offer I can't refuse. As noon approached, the sun gradually became hotter. When Green was waiting for the next challenger, Steward Rosal hurried over. My master, the next challenger insists on fighting you with a spear. Green raised his eyebrows slightly and asked, which family is he from? He is a member of the Klein family. It is said that he is the elder brother of the Klein swordsman you defeated yesterday. Green's brown eyes moved, and he said, in a duel between swordsmen, if he insists on using a spear, it's fine. You have to pay more. I'll charge him 100 gold royals. Rosal nodded and hurried away again. Not long after, a Klein spearman who looked nearly 30 years old walked onto the ring with a dark face. Standing opposite Green, the Klein challenger pulled down his visor. Woo woo woo, the horn sounded to indicate the start of the game. The Klein spearman took advantage of the length of his spear and took the lead in stabbing Green. Green moved the sword in his hand, and with a clang, he slapped the spear to the side and rushed forward. Green's movements were very fast. By the time his opponent reacted, he had already appeared in front of him. With a thud, Green's shoulder hit the chest of the Crane spearman. The Crane spearman suddenly lost his balance and was about to fall backwards. With a bang, Green raised the handle of his sword and slammed it into the opponent's visor. After a muffled sound, the Crane spearman, whose visor was slightly deformed, lay on the ground motionless. Green said coldly, carry it down, this is an honor duel between swordsmen. He insisted on coming up with a spear. He just collected a little more challenge money, but he dared to show Green a black face. The open-minded Green, for the purity of the competition and the honor of the swordsman, would naturally end the battle cleanly. No one values honor more than Baron Green. Green looked up at the sun and made a gesture. Steward Rosal, who received Green's signal, immediately announced loudly that the morning challenge was over. When Green stepped off the stage, he saw the three siblings of the Tully family. Steward Rosal had already reported to Green that the Tully family wanted to meet them. Green on the stage seemed invincible. After Green stepped off the stage, his face was delicate and gentle, which made people easily feel good about him. Green took the initiative to touch his chest and greeted, "Good day, Sir Samwell Tully." Samwell, who was fat and had a lot of beard, smiled shyly. "Good day, Baron Green Crab. This is my sister, Taratelli, who was as young as a flower, had clear eyes and fair skin. Her beauty was not stunning but very attractive. Green looked at Taratelli and saluted. "Good day, Miss Taratelli. Your arrival makes this place more glorious." Taratelli's little face was a little shy, and she lifted her skirt slightly and said, "Good day, Baron Green Crab. Thank you for your compliment." Green nodded slightly and turned his gaze to Samuel's brother. "Good day, Sir Dick and Tarly." Dick and Tarly looked at Green with sparkling eyes and saluted very standardly. "Good day, Baron Green Crab. I admire you very much." Green smiled humbly and encouraged. "I believe you will also be an excellent swordsman in the future." After completing the tedious mutual greetings, Green invited Samuel and his 3 siblings to have lunch together. Red Castle, Meagher's Tower. Early this morning, Queen Cersei had another big quarrel with King Robert. At this time, Queen Cersei's anger had subsided. Queen Cersei held the wine glass in her back, frowned, and seemed to be lost in thought. She couldn't stand King Robert anymore. To Queen Cersei, every time King Robert sought pleasure, every time was an insult to her. And, most importantly, her Joffrey had grown up. Queen Cersei, who had proclaimed herself a true successor of the old line Tywin Lannister, had to prepare a perfect plan like her father to get rid of King Robert, who disgusted her. After calming down and thinking about it for a long time, Queen Cersei felt that there was no more reliable plan than letting Jaime assassinate him personally. It's better not to leave any handle in such a matter. Queen Cersei thought that Jaime was weak in character and liked to look ahead and behind, so it would take a lot of time to convince him. Cousin Lancel is now King Robert's attendant. Queen Cersei curled her lips and drank the summer red in the glass in one gulp. Red Castle, Prime Minister's Tower. In order to cooperate with the seriously ill Duke John to handle the affairs of the kingdom, the Minister of Finance Petyr Baelish moved his office to the Prime Minister's Tower. Petyr sat at the table like a statue, motionless, only his grey-green eyes moved from time to time. Petyr was a man who was good at summarizing. He had to admit that Baron Green from Crab Claw Peninsula had taught him a lesson in political strategy. The veil would be in Petyr's pocket sooner or later. Petyr was now thinking about the issue of ruling after obtaining the veil. Gold dragons might bring loyalty, but this loyalty was unreliable, because it might backstab you for the gold dragon. Petyr often used gold dragons to bribe some people he needed, so he had a deep understanding of this. Petyr's family was not a traditional military noble. It lacked the kind of affiliated family that could fight and was loyal and reliable, and it also lacked the army leader who only recognized his own lord. In Westeros, without this kind of family background, Petyr would find it difficult to control the army even if he had one, and it would be easy for him to be bribed by his opponents. Without the deterrence of the army, even if he obtained the veil, he would be restricted by the nobles of the veil everywhere. He also had to be careful everywhere. Because of the conflict of interests, he was assassinated by the barbaric nobles. This was not the result he wanted. Petyr had learned about it in the past few days. The hatred between Green's forces and the nobles of the valley has accumulated for a long time, which can be said to be almost irreconcilable. Therefore, Green is a reliable natural ally to a certain extent in dealing with the nobles of the valley. Petyr thought that the location of the Crab Claw Peninsula was just right, and he might be able to use Green's army to restrain the nobles of the valley. With a restraint, a certain balance can be achieved, and he can control the situation. In this way, Petyr will have enough time to deal with the disobedient nobles of the valley while gaining the loyalty of the nobles of the valley. In the end, Petyr will keep the nobles of the valley who are only loyal to him, completely control the valley, and become the real master of the valley. Petyr narrowed his eyes slightly. This was a large-scale transaction. For this large-scale transaction, Petyr needed to accurately calculate Baron Green's needs and weaknesses. Although the contact between the two was short, Petyr believed that Green was as shrewd as him. Petyr felt that he had to give Green a condition that he could not refuse. Sorry, the second update is late, but it's here anyway. Please support me by voting. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.